I was waiting on the TikTok shives. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Oh, and David's thrown in with it too. Yes, I know. I'm here. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm going to get started with the pre-submitted patron and member questions as usual. But first, I want to make an announcement here, and then hopefully I'll remember to also make it again at the end of the show. Just a minor programming change. What would have been the next Ask Away 2 weeks from tonight is not going to happen because 2 weeks from today, I'm getting some wisdom teeth taken out in the afternoon. And I'm just going to give myself the rest of the day off to recover from that instead of trying to do a live stream a few hours after that. So the next scheduled Ask Away after this one would have been April 24th. We're just gonna skip that one. We're just gonna take that one off the calendar. And so instead, the next Ask Away after this one will be May 8th. So I will make that announcement again at the end of the show, and I've already scheduled some automatic posts to go up on my YouTube community page and my Patreon page to remind everybody that there's not going to be an Ask Away in 2 weeks. But just to put it out there so that it's not a surprise and nobody's wondering, like, why wasn't there a live stream? It's because I'm having some dental work done and I'm giving myself a break. So, and hopefully I'll remember to reiterate that at the end of the show, but just up front, now you know. So, having dispensed with those formalities, let us begin, as usual, with the pre-submitted patron and member questions. And a reminder, as always, if you are in the live chat with us and you have something you want me to pay attention to in the live chat, most especially if you are planning on being generous and tossing in a super chat, or you have anything else you want to ask me or something you want me to pay attention to, please, if possible, hold off on all of that until I get through the patron and member questions, because then and only then will I be able to give full attention to the live chat. So Kara says you don't want me drooling into the camera because I'm doped up on oxycodone. Yeah. Hopefully it won't be that bad. But we will we will see. So anyway, let us begin with the patron and member questions. And the first one comes from our friend General Contact Unit Problem Child, who says, I'll ask here because I was having trouble explaining and asking this in chat last Wednesday. There's people who think we should just be maximally welcoming to any Trump voter who changes their mind, no opprobrium or judgment. I think if those people were being perfectly honest, they'd say we want them to start voting our way. Humans are petty and fickle. If we make them think changing their minds involves any negative emotions, i.e. like guilt whatsoever, they might not do it. I mean, I think that's a more practical way to look at it. And I do think, I mean, but it's kind of like what I said when the question came up, which is if someone says to me, you know, I regret voting for Trump, I'm sorry I voted for Trump, my next question to them is, are you voting for the Democrats next time? And if their answer is anything other than yes, end of conversation. Like, life's too short, you know, and it's not my job to hold the hand of an adult who willingly voted for Donald Trump. Like, I'm not accepting excuses for that. And it's not my job to kind of lead you by the hand over onto the other side and wrap my arm around you and give you a cup of tea and say, oh, welcome. Like, that's not my role. If other people want to do that, more power to them, right? But I am not going to be the person that's like, oh, you're regretting voting for Trump. Oh, please tell me more about it. Come on, like, if you regret voting for him and you want to start making up for it and you are willing to say, I will vote for the Democratic candidates all the way up and down the ballot the next time there's an election, then okay, good for you. But if you're just saying, I'm sorry I voted for Trump because you're tired of catching shit for it, I'm sorry. I have no time for you. But I do think what you're suggesting in your question is, you know, if it, I still don't think we should be maximally welcoming to any Trump voter who changes their mind. if they are not also willing to commit to voting against the Republicans from now on. That's just where I will drop that marker. If you regret voting for Trump and you are willing to commit to voting against the Republicans from now on, okay, now we have something to talk about. If you're not willing to make that commitment, next. That's where I am at with it. William Tucker, happy birthday, soonish. Adjunct to the Ginger Marianne discussion. Would you choose Samantha or Jeannie? Yeah, I guess you could say happy birthday, because now that I'm rescheduling the next stream, the next stream will be a few days after my birthday. So thank you. Samantha or Jeannie? Samantha. Elizabeth Montgomery. I mean, and if it requires further explanation beyond just me stating Elizabeth Montgomery, I don't know. But if you get it, you get it. So yeah, Samantha, definitely. Brian Baker, Steve, what is your opinion of the Orville? What is your favorite non-Trek show on television right now? I like the Orville. I thought it got better as it went on. I thought season 2 was better than season 1, and I thought season 3 was better than season 2, even though I also thought the episodes in season 3 were too long, because that was the season where they went straight to Hulu. It was not broadcast on Fox first, so they didn't have that sort of more rigid time slot limitation where the episodes had to be 44 minutes and something. They could go a little longer, and I feel like they took a little too much advantage of that. And I think most of the episodes in season 3 they just dragged. They were a little long. They could have used a trim. But overall, I liked it. I liked the Orville a lot. And what is my favorite non-Trek show on television right now? It's probably Daredevil, season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. That's probably my favorite show at this moment. And I mean, it's a good show just all around. I've always enjoyed this version of Daredevil since they started it on Netflix, years ago. I've always considered it one of my favorite sort of corners of the MCU, and I'm enjoying the current season of the revived version. I like it a lot. It's a really well-written show. But I have also said, I've said in the past that the show could literally be nothing other than an hour a week of Daredevil beating the shit out of cops, and I'd be fine with that. I would never miss an episode. There's more to the show than that, but it's nice that is part of the show. It's nice to see Daredevil just beat especially this season where the cops are specifically an analog to ICE agents. So getting to see Daredevil beat the absolute living fuck out of fictionalized versions of ICE agents is it's pretty sweet. I'm enjoying it quite a lot. Heather says, do you think what is happening in the U.S. now is more intentional destruction or more careless greed? I mean, I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. I feel like the greed is feeding the destruction. I mean, if I had to pick between the two, probably greed. There is a certain amount of malice in the modern Republican Party as led by Donald Trump, where there is a desire, I think, on the part of a lot of people driven by resentment over imagined grievances, that they do just want to fuck shit up for other people. They do just want to ruin things for other people and tear down things that they have judged as offensive or unworthy or whatever. I do think that is part of it, and I would qualify that as intentional destruction. But I think greed is more of a driving force. I feel like a lot of what we're seeing now is the Republican Party, and specifically the core of it surrounding Donald Trump, just trying to strip mine the country and the economy for as much as they can possibly get out of it before they're not allowed to do it anymore. So I think I would give the edge to greed, but I think both of them are important factors. Lucinda, epitaphs. There's a cheerful subject. I keep a frequently updated list of my favorite potential epitaphs for myself, to help my son out whenever that time comes. A few of my current faves. I really didn't think this through. If there's a way to screw things up, I will find it, found it, and here there be dragons. I was going to ask you for your potential epitaph, but instead, what would Stuffy's epitaph be? Not that it will ever be needed, Of course. Actually, as he often does, Stuffy is sitting in on this live stream. Stuffy, are you there?
I'm here.
So, did you hear the question from Luxinda about your epitaph?
Yes, yes. So I don't think about it very much because it's a little morbid, but I think I would like my epitaph to read, "Here lies Stuffy, helper, friend, stuffed dog."
Okay, I like that. I mean, what about something a little more highfalutin though, like "Here lies Stuffy, he was a stuffed dog. All in all, we shall not see his like again."
I like mine better.
Okay, thanks, Stuffy. Anyway, there you go. I like mine, but it's his epitaph. Cindy, what's your all-time favorite Mel Brooks movie, and also your all-time favorite line from any Mel Brooks movie, even if not from the favorite movie you just named? Favorite Mel Brooks, it's still probably the first movie he ever directed, which is the original The Producers. That's just I just love that movie. It makes me laugh so much. And my favorite line, it's probably also a line from The Producers. Let me think of what my favorite line from The Producers is. Gene Wilder, when he has that exchange with Zero where and it ends with him going, I'm in pain and I'm wet and I'm still hysterical. Probably that. It's just the whole movie is brilliant, and Gene Wilder and Zero Mostel are just absolutely incredible together. The Producers, my favorite Mel Brooks movie. Orkenspalter TV from Germany. Guten Tag, Steve. New Trek makes Voyager look brilliant, is what Rich Evans of Red Letter Media said 3 days ago in a Voyager review. I know you are familiar with their work. I myself like Rich a lot, with Mike being the toxic one who shits on New Trek even during this unrelated video. To me, this leaves a bitter aftertaste with the MAGA-related Starfleet Academy cancellations, or at least it is bad timing. What would you say to Mike and Rich to prove to them they are wrong? I'm unsure if I can still enjoy Red Alert. I wouldn't say anything to them. I'm not interested in proving people wrong about their opinions on Star Trek. I don't care. I have my opinions. I like what I like. I dislike what I like. I feel like I represent that very well in my videos when I'm talking about my opinions, when I'm reviewing things and trying to articulate why I like something or why I don't like something. I'm not interested in trying to convince somebody who doesn't like it that they should like it. That I don't think that's how it should really work anyway. It's a subjective matter. It's an opinion. If Rich really thinks that new Star Trek makes Voyager look good, I mean, some of it does. Some of it does. Like the first 2 seasons of Strange New Worlds are better than almost anything Voyager ever did. In my opinion. You know, season 3 of Strange New Worlds, not so much, but the first 2 seasons are for the most part excellent. Star Trek Prodigy was for the most part excellent. There's been good stuff and bad stuff, but I'm not going to try to argue with other people about, well, you should like new Star Trek more than you do. I mean, maybe their reasons for not liking it are biased and prejudiced and bullshit and rooted in being small-minded, or maybe it's just not to their taste. Either way, I don't care. I haven't really paid attention to Red Letter Media since the heyday of the Plinkett reviews. I haven't even watched an episode of Half in the Bag in probably 3 or 4 years. I mean, I don't wish those guys any ill will. I just haven't been paying attention to them, and I just kind of lost interest in their stuff. If they are categorically rejecting new Star Trek without watching it or giving it a fair shake, or they're doing like the angry nerd thing where they're just like checking off items on a list and saying, well, they did that wrong, they did that wrong, they did that wrong. I mean, that's a shame, but it's their business, and it's not mine. I don't care. Let them like it or don't like it for whatever reasons they want. That's really all I have to say about it. Yeah, and life's too short. If somebody doesn't like something that you like, life is too short to fucking argue with them about. It's opinions about a TV show or a movie. And yeah, people can use that. People can like or dislike TV shows and movies for shitty reasons and use that to kind of launder intolerance and bigotry. And I think that should be called out and resisted whenever it's found. But the general idea of, well, they don't like a show that I like, let me try to convince them, that's kid stuff. That's life's way too short for that. Jenny Duncan. Hey, Steve, happy to join your members / patrons. Been watching for quite a few years. About 3 years ago, you made a video covering the topic of Star Trek musical instruments and their players. Also, occasionally, you will touch on the musical soundtracks / scores of Star Trek. Have you ever thought about making a video comparing and contrasting the scores of those like Alexander Courage, Dennis McCarthy, Jeff Russo, etc.? That's a really great idea. I would love to do that. The problem is the content ID system on YouTube would make that kind of video really difficult to make, because even though I'm sure that it's hard to talk about music without playing some of the music, in order to illustrate what you're talking about. And even if my usage of the music would be legitimately completely defensible fair use, which I think it would be, it's still entirely possible that the content ID system on YouTube would disagree, and the video would either end up having to be, I would either end up having to take down the video, or the video would be it would probably wouldn't be demonetized, but the monetization would be paid not to me, but to the rights holders of the music. And so basically I would be doing a video for free. And it's not that, I couldn't do that, but that kind of video would probably be a lot of work. And then to just not be paid anything for it, it's kind of hard to justify that as a use of my time. So it's not that I wouldn't want to do it. It's not that it isn't a great idea. I think it is. And I feel like I would have something potentially interesting to say about it, but just the reality of using that many music clips in a YouTube video, and then almost certainly having to, at the bare minimum, having to fight through content ID claim after content ID claim after content ID claim, and then, still facing the probability that they wouldn't all go my way and I'd end up having to, give away a whole bunch of the ad revenue. I mean, I hate to put it so cold-bloodedly and so, in such a capitalistic fashion, but it's just, it wouldn't be worth doing from a financial perspective. And I do have to consider that, because this is what I do for a living, and it sucks. And I wish I didn't have to look at it that way, but I feel like I do. That's why I don't really use, when I talk about Star Trek or anything else, I don't use a ton of audio clips, period. If I do show a video clip, it's usually just the audio is dropped out and it's me talking over it. And I almost never use musical clips, because music, triggers content ID claims very quickly. That the video I did in January for Public Domain Day. Even though all of those, I use music in that, all of those clips were public domain. And it took weeks for the content ID claims to clear. And they all cleared because they have no case. It's public domain, and it's all clearly public domain, and I'm allowed to do whatever I want with it. But it's an automated system, and it's a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass, and it's not worth the pain in the ass. Donovan. Hi, Steve. I have always wanted to get an Old Norse tattoo. I'm a third-generation Norwegian immigrant, and studying how queer my ancestors were makes me feel accepted. But typically, most people with those kinds of tattoos are Nazis. I don't want to let them appropriate Norse symbols, but I don't want people to think I'm a Nazi either. Any advice? I mean, is there a way you could do, you could blend like an old Norse symbol with some kind of modern, like queer imagery? Could you do like a rainbow flag version of a Norse glyph, or something to visually indicate that, yes, it is of Norse mythological origins, but also you are, claiming it as part of a queer identity. Like, I don't know. I can't tell you what visually that would look like, but that to me is something I would think about, like some way of incorporating a, you know, a supportive attitude and a proud attitude of regarding queerness with the, you know, the Norse, the Norwegian heritage. I don't know. But again, I mean, you might want to talk to an artist who can come up with some visual ideas for that. But that's what I would think about. Something like that. Zulu Romeo, the Zuluest Romeo in the galaxy, who is still too scared to touch the My House Doomwad. Of late, I've become invested in psychological horror. Two YouTube channels I would recommend are Local 58, a fictional community cable TV station, and Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, a more comedic parody of preschool kids shows. I'm also reading House of Leaves. Yet as a child, I hated horror, but now I can't help but be drawn to horror films and shows. Maybe as an adult, I've learned to embrace the dark side more. Anyway, what sort of fictional horror media scratches your itch right now? I'll tell you one just very recently. And I talked about this on our most recent episode of on the members only section of our most recent episode of the Late Seating podcast. So if you happen to be a patron of the Let Me Listen podcast and you watched me and Jason in the uncut version of the new Late Seating, you may have heard me mention this already. But the new 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, which was really good. And it made me think how the 28, now starting with 28 days later, now it's 28 years later, but that series kind of came back to life last year after laying dormant for many, many years. And now all of a sudden, like, they're just cranking out these movies and they're really good. Like the one from last year, 28 Years Later, was really good. And then this one, 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, also really good. And it's just kind of cool to see that, you know, and kind of what you would have to consider it kind of a legacy series, because the original 28 Days Later came out in what, 2002, 2003, something like that. You know, so it's been 25 years almost, and it just recently was brought back, but it's been really good. I've really enjoyed it, and it's been a good horror series, but also like they find these moments of grace and beauty in the midst of the horror without negating the horror, which is just a really neat trick to pull off, and I've really enjoyed those movies. So that at the moment, I would say that is scratching my itch. Justin B, have you thought about doing a TTRPG on your channel? Bless Justin's heart. There's a tabletop game called Star Trek Adventures, and I believe there is a second edition. You can follow the modules or create your own. Any era. Second edition, I believe, has Discovery, Lower Decks, and parts of Strange New Worlds. I would rather lay down on a train track. No. I'm not a gamer. I'm particularly not an RPG gamer. I've never played an a tabletop RPG. I've never had any interest in doing it. It seems like the biggest waste of time I can possibly imagine. And I say that that's just my opinion. I don't want to shit on anybody else's good time. If you're a gamer and you like, you know, playing like D&D type games, go have fun. I'm not telling you not to, or I'm not, you know, saying that you're a bad person or judging you or whatever. I'm just saying it's not my thing. It's never been my thing. It's never going to be my thing. And I don't care if it's Star Trek related or anything else. It's just not something I'm remotely interested in. And it will never happen on this channel. I can guarantee. It's like, what Chris Rock said in Bring the Pain. You know how they say never? I'm saying never. It's never going to happen. But I appreciate the suggestion, and thank you for being a supporter. An enemy spy who hopes someone got fired for this blunder. Steve, I found what seems to be a glaring plot hole in the Ensign's log. Uh-oh. In episode 127, The Lap of Luxury, we learn the evil Jason has a dead man switch that if he dies will activate the bomb in your character's head. Yet in episode 129, Let Them Eat Cake, he slips on Plobo's vomit and dies when his head hits the floor. Nothing happens. I kept waiting for any kind of explanation, and it never came. So what gives? Did you guys just forget about it? How do you plead, sir? A wizard did it. Honestly, there are probably way more plot holes like that in the show. If you really go through it with like a fine-tooth comb and look for things like that, there's probably a bunch of them, and many of them are probably on me because I don't give a shit. Like, I really don't give a shit. If myself or Amanda says something that is in contradiction to something we've already established, or like says something that our characters aren't supposed to know yet, or if one of us brings something like that into the improv and Jason catches it, like, he will stop us and say, no, don't say that, because of this and this. Like, if Jason catches it, he will fix it in the improv and it won't go out on the finished show. But if Jason doesn't catch it, I'm probably not going to catch it. Like, the things, what I hold in my head for the Ensign's Log is a sense of who the characters are. And I mean, the main characters, like our three characters. I hold a sense of who they are and what their personalities are and how they relate to each other, and a general sense of what the current status quo is, right? Like, what's been going on in this season, let's say. Like, I hold that in my head, and that informs my performance and how I interact with my castmates during the improv. Other than that, your guess is as good as mine. Like, if you ask me, like, what about that thing that happened in season 3? You're going to have to tell me specifically. I don't remember. Like, you're going to have to remind me, because I don't carry all that in my head. And unless somebody prompts me to remember it, or says, bring that into the scene, I'm not going to, because I don't remember and I probably don't care. So if you want to go plot hole hunting in the Ensign's Log, there's probably a lot more than that. But in that case, yeah, I probably just forgot, or Jason forgot, or that is something like that. David Colby has also conjured a Chuck Norris tulpa to fight in a martial arts tournament. And you know what? That's an explanation I didn't consider for the last act of Sidekicks. Chuck Norris was actually physically there. It wasn't just all in Barry's head, but it wasn't really Chuck Norris. It was the embodiment, the physical manifestation of Chuck Norris that was conjured by Barry's imagination, that was so powerful that it manifested a real Chuck Norris in the world. I think that's the explanation. Anyway, David says, we need more boring superhero movies. If I had the ability to manipulate fundamental forces of gravity, allowing me to fly and shoot energy from my hands, I'd spend my days at a power plant in a third world country, pushing a flywheel to produce carbon neutral electricity for pennies on the dollar for impoverished people, or flying medicine around. So, Steve, why don't we have more deeply, deeply boring superhero movies about men in tights doing tedious jobs at incredible speeds? Cowardice? Yeah, cowardice. The movie studios are afraid of losing all that money by making these fucking boring movies. Hey, why don't we do a movie about Superman providing clean energy for the whole planet? Yeah, that sounds like a great plot. What happens in the movie? Superman turns a wheel. It's like, I mean, you get those kinds of suggestions from Star Trek fans sometimes too. Where they're like, I wish they would do a story about like how the replicator was invented. Like, what the fuck are you talking? That's not a story. It's a show. It needs to have a story. There needs to be something for the characters to do. It's an action adventure show. It needs to have a plot. There needs to be some tension. There needs to be some plot points. There needs to be some suspense. There needs to be a character arc. Like, these narrative things need to happen. Well, how did they perfect the transporter though? Like, maybe they should do an episode about it. It's not a fucking story. They have fusion power in Star Trek. How'd they crack that? I don't fucking know. You know? But yeah, no, if I agree, if holding the attention of an audience and having any fucking point to make whatsoever were not considerations, then yeah, let's do lots of superhero movies about people using their powers to produce clean electricity. That would be great. Agent Meister, don't tell him about the statue. Peldor Joy, Steve, you know what? Fuck Star Trek 4. I think we should kill as many whales as possible. All that extra mass taken out of our oceans will lower sea levels, thus negating the effect of climate change. And while we're at it, kill all the jellyfish too. Who do those sons of bitches think they are? Constantly getting in my way when I go swimming. And apropos of nothing, did you say recently that you don't like Home Alone, or was that a dream I had? Please elaborate. It may, in fact, have been a dream you had, but that is also my true opinion. No, I do not like Home Alone. So here's an impression of me watching Home Alone. You notice how I'm not laughing? It's really similar to my impression of me watching Lower Decks as well. I just have this thing where when I watch a comedy and I don't laugh like at all, I probably don't like it. So no, I am not a fan of Home Alone because I don't think it's funny. It's hard to enjoy a comedy when it's not making me fucking laugh. Air One Fire's shitty ass clever nickname. That's my favorite nickname that you've ever come up with. Hi, Steve. Why do you, I love this question. Why do you refer to bad things as the shits? From what I know in typical vernacular, you can either say that something is the shit, which means great, e.g., man, I just took the most satisfying shit ever. That was the shit. Or you can say it's shit, which means bad, e.g., man, this shit is shit. As far as I know, normally the shits means either diarrhea or conflict. Now, excuse me, I have to go continue watching Lower Decks. That shit is just the shits. Best wishes. Okay, I love this question because it gets into the subtle little intricacies of language. Yes, calling something the shit is usually a way of saying that it's good. Like, oh man, that movie was the shit. But when you add that little S at the end, it changes the meaning entirely. So if I say that new Superman movie was the shit, that means I really liked it. Whereas if I say, man, that Superman movie was the shits, that means I'm talking about Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, right? It means I didn't like it. The S makes a difference because when you say normally the shits means diarrhea. That's why when you say something is the shits, you're indicating that it's bad. You are likening it to diarrhea. And the phrase, I think I probably started saying it. I adopted it from pro wrestling related vernacular because a lot of wrestlers will say if they have like a really bad match or they see someone else's match that was really bad, they'll either say that match was the shits, or if it's really bad, they'll say that match was the drizzling shits. And that really sort of visualizes the metaphor to diarrhea, right? So the shit, that's good. That's some good shit. The shits, very bad. You don't want that. So I hope this helped to clarify. The brain. Is Starfleet Academy a meritocracy or a system that rewards conformity to Federation values? Do you think someone brilliant but openly critical of the Federation could actually make it through Starfleet Academy? Well, the simple answer is yes. I do think someone openly critical of the Federation could actually make it through Starfleet Academy if they were able to, persevere and put their own their own moral problems aside. Yes, I do. But the real answer is it depends on what story is being told. I mean, and I hate to keep going back to this kind of answer, but it's just fundamentally how I view the show. Like it's a work of fiction. It has a point to make, and the point is determined by the creators of whatever a given story, whatever story we're talking about. So if someone were creating a Star Trek story where, where they were criticizing the Academy and using that as a platform for, some other kind of social commentary, and they wanted to write it so that the whole point was, yes, actually, Starfleet Academy presents itself as a meritocracy, but in fact, it is more about rewarding conformity to Federation values, then that's what it would be in that story. And actually, I think that would be a really good story. Like, that would be a really provocative, starting point. I mean, you need to actually have a plot at some point, but that general idea, that general theme of, the Academy isn't actually a meritocracy. The Academy is actually just about reinforcing and indoctrinating people or rewarding people who, embrace Federation values. Like, that to me is a really good starting point for a story. And I would love to see where that would go. But you could also, do the other thing. Like, it really, it's clay. You know what I mean? Like, it's clay. You can use it to make, you can shape it into whatever you want to shape it to tell the story you want to tell. But just generally speaking, based on what we've seen of Starfleet and the Academy and the many different times we've seen it over the years in various shows, it seems like at least it's been presented as the kind of place where, yes, where someone who was critical of the Federation could still make it through. Yes. Mental ward. What if we had gotten Star Trek Picardo instead of Star Trek Picard? Where was Letterman when we needed him? If they had done a show if they had done Star Trek Picardo and it was just Robert Picardo doing like a 30-minute Q&A with people once a week, I would probably watch that. I would probably watch that. Yeah. And it almost certainly would have been better than Star Trek Picard. Kara the Tolkien Nerd. Hi, Steve. They've been putting on a few Poirot episodes on BBC Two in the UK recently. The two Ustinov ones, Evil Under the Sun and Death on the Nile, both of which are reasonably good. Of all the actors to play Poirot, which do you think is the best one? Is it Suchet, Ustinov, Finney, or Brana? My choice has always got to be Suchet, because I think he really epitomizes the fastidious little Belgian, but you may have other thoughts. What's your opinion on this, Kara? Well, I don't really have that strong of an opinion because I haven't seen that much Poirot. I've seen a bunch of Sherlock Holmes adaptations, so I have pretty strong feelings about who my favorite live action actors to play Holmes are. But in terms of Poirot, I've seen the Brana movies. I've seen Albert Finney's version of Murder on the Orient Express. And of course, I've seen the Suchet episodes that Dana and I have watched so far on Wednesdays. I've actually never watched any of the Peter Ustinov ones. So I hear people, praise his portrayal of the character all the time. And I do want to watch them at some point, but I've just never gotten around to it. And, I've never been as interested in Poirot as I have been in Holmes, since I was a teenager. So I just don't have the basis to form a strong opinion. Based on what little I've seen, I would go with Suchet. But like I said, I haven't seen as much Poirot as I have Holmes. So I'm not as steadfast in that opinion. But at this point, I would say Suchet, yeah. Although I have really enjoyed Brana. But that's more than because I'm a Kenneth Branagh fan, not so much that I enjoy his particular Poirot interpretation. I really like Kenneth Branagh, and I like to see him just absolutely fucking ham it up. And you show me Kenneth Branagh doing a funny voice, I'm probably pretty happy. So I enjoy his Poirot. Endave. Usually it's Endarth. I don't know if you have forgotten the R or if you've changed it to Endath, but whatever. Either way, sorry, there are two questions. Had to avoid being rude or confusing. Hey, Captain, do you think holodecks are an evolution of generative AI? If they are, should a Star Trek show address the problems with holodecks and dismantle it forever? Side note, I liked how The Good Place addressed the problem with Gen AI through Janet and by extension Heaven. When you have everything instantly, it turns your brain to mush, and heaven just becomes a different kind of hell. Yeah, I see what you mean. It would be interesting to see a Star Trek show do a holodeck episode now with, you know, the existence of things like Chat GPT, etc., and, you know, the various video and image generating apps, it would be interesting to see a Star Trek show, you know, sort of view the holodeck through that lens. I don't know if the solution would be to dismantle it forever. You know, I mean, that might not be, it might not be the best choice dramatically, because you have to remember it's a TV show, and just because you as the writer might think, well, this generative AI stuff is fucking terrible, we should just get rid of it, even if that's what you think should happen in reality, that might not be what should happen in the episode. But no, I can't really, I don't have an idea in my brain for what the story would be or what the approach would be. But I do think it's really interesting, the idea of Star Trek writers in a new Star Trek show, like one, obviously one that hasn't been made yet, using the holodeck as a concept to specifically address and comment on generative AI. I think that's a really interesting thing. I don't know if we'll ever see that, at least not anytime soon, but it's a really interesting idea. The Grumpy Monkey, busted makes him feel good. How now, Steve? Have you seen the 2 Ghostbusters movies directed by Jason Reitman? I honestly thought Afterlife was good until Act 3, when it just became one big callback to the '84 movie. Frozen Empire had the germ of a good idea, but again, the constant callbacks and Easter eggs to the '84 movie ruined it for me. I love Ghostbusters '84 as much as the next guy, but can we please move on? Especially when there is so much material to be mined from the real Ghostbusters cartoon. Thoughts? Well, I'm not that big of a fan of either of those 2 movies. I don't think either of them are all that good. I think I preferred Frozen Empire to Afterlife. Because even though, I mean, they're both just absolutely rancid with Easter eggs and callbacks, but at least Frozen Empire had some originality when it came to the villain, to the threat. It wasn't just like a direct continuation of the previous Ghostbusters movies. We're like, well, we have to finish what they started back in '84. What it wasn't, you know, they didn't bring fucking Gozer the Gozerian back. You know what I mean? It was a new, it felt like it was at least a little bit of a fresh start, even though they still had like the old Ghostbusters and they had all the fucking old, you know, they were in the firehouse and they drove the old car. They had all of the old Ghostbusters stuff, but they at least tried to inject some new material in there. I don't think it succeeded, but it was at least an attempt. So I liked it a little better, but I don't really think either of them are that great. Here's my suggestion. You say there's so much material to be mined from the real Ghostbusters cartoon. How about they do what the real Ghostbusters cartoon did without directly mining stuff from that cartoon, and that is just make up new shit. Because the real Ghostbusters cartoon, they made up new shit. Like, they didn't do that cartoon for all those years and make all those episodes, and like every episode was a direct sequel to something from the Ghostbusters movie. Most of it was stuff that they just completely made up for that show. So just do that with the next movie. Just make up a completely new story involving the Ghostbusters. Just do that. You know, like, I would much rather see that than see them do like a movie version. I mean, yes, okay, it's less well-trodden ground. So sure, drawing from the cartoon as inspiration for the movie at this point would be better than going back to the well of the original movie yet again. But I would much rather not see them do that either and just make up something new. Like, it's already the Ghostbusters. You're already starting with, you know, a pre-existing franchise. You're already starting with a box that everybody is familiar with. Why not fill the box with new stuff? You know what I'm saying? That's just, I'm dreaming, but that's what I would like to see. Andy Lawler, who has been in space geek heaven for a week and is loving it. Hey, Steve, in the midst of the shit show, I'm absolutely loving the amazing journey of Artemis 2. I've been watching recordings of Apollo for 53 years now, though I'm watching it in real time, well, with a 3-second delay. I haven't seen it online, But maggots must be losing their shit over the diversity of the crew. How batshit do you think revered leader Grab 'em by the pussy is going over the black guy, woman, and foreigner going to the moon? Thanks, and have a great weekend, everybody. I don't know what their their actual feelings are about it, but I think their relative silence is deafening. Because I don't really see a lot of MAGA people saying anything about it. I haven't really seen anybody like, trying to complain that the astronauts or that NASA is too woke, because the mission has been a great success. I mean, people seem to be really into it and really interested in it and really, celebrating of the achievements of these astronauts and the achievement of the program in general that got them up there, which is what should be happening. We should be proud of it. We should be taking pride in it. We should be excited by it. And in light of that, it would really feel like pushing against the wind for the Trump people to be like, actually, we shouldn't be proud of this, and this is an embarrassment. Like, it's obvious that these astronauts are competent, intelligent, courageous people who are doing an extraordinary thing. And if somebody was to, if some fucking nitwit little right-wing podcaster, if fucking Tim Pool or something was to come out and go, yeah, but why is there a black guy and why is there a woman? Like, you could see through that instantly, because it's like he has no reason to complain. Like, these people are clearly the best of us. Like, they are clearly doing their jobs. They're doing everything that these little assholes always say they want. They're competent, they're serious, they're professional, they've got their shit down, they know what they're doing. So if they were to start the fucking anti-woke shit about the Artemis 2 crew, it would be blatantly, they're just pissed off because it's a black guy and a woman on the ship. Oh, okay. And I mean, to me, it's blatant anyway, but it would be blatant probably to everybody, So I haven't I mean, maybe I've just succeeded in having or the algorithm has blessed me so that my social media feeds just, kind of filter most of that out. But I haven't seen MAGA people saying a whole lot of anything about the Artemis mission. And I think it's probably because they're probably not super happy about it or super excited about it. But what are they going to say that isn't going to make them look like even bigger assholes than they already are? Rusty Ronan, yo, Steve, I hope you don't mind questions like this, knowing you don't care about Fallout. But have you ever seen A Boy and His Dog? It's an entertaining B sci-fi Fallout fans should get a kick out of. It's written by Harlan Ellison, so there's that. Anyway, it was a major influence to the creators of the Fallout franchise. Hard to believe it's been 30 years since the first Fallout PC game. Seeing how popular Fallout has gotten in the past 15 years, I'm surprised how little is known about this film. I have never seen it. I will make a note to seek it out. No, I've never seen it. I'm not even sure. It sounds familiar. I may have heard of it, but just kind of filed it away and forgotten about it. But no, I know I've never seen it. I will make an effort to watch it at some point. You had me at Harlan Ellison. Danny K. Hey, Steve, what are some of your favorite sitcoms of the 20th century? And what do you think separates a good sitcom from a bad or mediocre one? Thanks. Hope all is well. Go Tigers. Yeah. Favorite sitcoms? I mean, All in the Family, I Love Lucy, Three's Company. Love me some Three's Company. If we count The Simpsons as a sitcom, The Simpsons. Perfect Strangers, even though it's not a super well-written show, but it was literally my favorite show when I was growing up. So I got to throw, and this year is the 40th anniversary, so I got to throw Perfect Strangers in there. But I mean, there were a lot of really great sitcoms in the 20th century. I guess I would have to say Seinfeld, although that qualifies because it was in the 20th century. But I mean, I'm reluctant to say Seinfeld because when I saw Curb Your Enthusiasm for the first time, that kind of ruined Seinfeld for me. because I saw, and Curb Your Enthusiasm didn't start until the 21st century, so that's kind of disqualified. But the first time I saw Curb Your Enthusiasm, I was like, oh, this is what Seinfeld should have been. Not that Seinfeld was bad. Seinfeld was terrific. But when I saw Curb Your Enthusiasm, it was like, oh, okay, this is it. Like, this is how you do that style of humor. It surpasses Seinfeld to me in every respect. As good as Seinfeld is, and I do really like Seinfeld, but Curb is just like a whole different dimension. But no, All in the Family is probably my favorite. All in the Family is maybe my favorite TV show ever. What separates a good one from a bad or a mediocre one? Well, I mean, how funny it is. Like, does it make me laugh? But that's kind of subjective. I mean, it's all subjective, but it doesn't make me laugh is very kind of general. I'll tell you something that makes a huge difference and that can elevate a mediocre sitcom into being a good one, or at least an entertaining one. And Perfect Strangers is an excellent example of this. The timing of the cast. If the cast has chemistry and timing, and Three's Company is an excellent example of this too. If the cast has chemistry and timing, they can pull up mediocre writing. Because, I mean, the writing on early Three's Company was often very good, but as the show went on, after you get past about like season 5 or 6, the writing on Three's Company starts to fall off a little. It's not as sharply written as it was in especially like season 2 and 3, when it was a really good show. And Perfect Strangers, the writing was never really that great, but the chemistry and the timing, the comic timing of Bronson Pinchot and Mark Lynn Baker as Balky and Larry carried that show all the way through. They were so good together that it almost didn't matter how bad the writing was. Like, the writing was atrocious quite often on Perfect Strangers, but the timing of the leads pulled it up and carried it. So timing, comic timing, and chemistry of the cast is really, really important. Some Random Geek, the liar. Hi, the still unemployed Some Random Geek is apparently a liar, according to a certain liberal, all because I said that white privilege exists, and yet I am a white man who was laid off from work. How come I was laid off if I'm white? I guess I'm not streaming on YouTube and Twitch right now because I should be laid off for being white, because I shouldn't be laid off for being white. I guess Phoenix doesn't need money because I told you I'm a liar. No point in keeping up with charity links because you shouldn't trust me. I am a liar. What are you saying? Here's the next one from Some Random Geek. You shouldn't trust Some Random Geek because they won't accept the truth about capitalism. If I told you that Joanna, Naz, LQ, and Joey need money because of capitalism, I am a liar. You shouldn't trust me. I just blindly hate capitalism. After all, I don't know anything if I don't agree with liberals. I don't know why I should tell others about my friends suffering under poverty. I should blame the government instead, not capitalism. I should just accept that capitalism will always happen. I am a terrible person anyway for celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. He didn't want me dead. I sense that some conversation has taken place recently and you're kind of pissed about it. And you're still sort of carrying that around. And I hope that you are able to take a kind of revenge against whoever has upset you like this. Because it feels like it's really gotten to you. And I'm not saying I blame you. I mean, if someone disrespects you and, kind of talks down to you and patronizes you and says, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You just blindly hate capitalism, and especially the white privilege bullshit it's like, oh, something bad happened to a white person, therefore no such thing as white privilege. Like, that's just really dumb. Whoever said that is dumb. They're a dumb person. And, you should try not to take what they say seriously, because it doesn't deserve to be taken seriously, because they're obviously someone who has no idea what the fuck they're talking about. But I understand why that kind of thing would get under your skin. So I'm sorry that happened, and I hope you feel better soon. Dana, for whom it has been a very eventful week. Hi, Steve. Happy Friday. At school, they play a little 30-second piece of a song before each tardy bell. This morning, it was Jolene, and I just scrolled by a post about how R's, I believe that means Republicans, always say, what if the Clintons were in the files? which set the foundation. So when they played Jolene, my first response was to start bopping, but the second was, oh, what if she was in there? It would crush me. Well, HBU, which I am told in this context means how about you? Which famous people, celebrities, politicians, etc., would you be devastated to find on the list? You know, it's hard to think of anyone that I would be devastated by, because I'm at that point in my life where I don't really idolize any celebrities to the point where if it turned out they were really shitty people that I would like be emotionally crushed. I would be disappointed. I would think, ah, oh, damn it. You know what I mean? Like, it would suck, but it wouldn't, like, I wouldn't be depressed about it. I wouldn't be like moping around going, oh, geez, you know. I mean, I did that video a few weeks ago about David Copperfield. Like, I loved David Copperfield. David Copperfield, I mean, still, even after the allegations and all the horse shit that's come out about him and all the things he's been accused of, even now, they're like, in my heart, I love those David Copperfield specials. And there's a part of me that will always love those David Copperfield specials. So finding out that he was as close as he appears to have been with Jeffrey Epstein, you know, that was incredibly disappointing. Did it keep me up at night? Like, was I moping around the house about it? Did I cry about it? Was I like, oh my God, I can't believe, like, no, not remotely. It sucked. It's disappointing. It's like, oh shit. But that's about it. You know? So, I mean, yeah, if Bruce Springsteen was in the Epstein files, that would suck. Would it crush me? Would it kill me? Probably not. You know, I can't think of anybody. You know, if my favorite baseball player is, if Eddie Murray was in the Epstein files, I would hate that. That would be terrible. That would be incredibly disillusioning and disappointing. Would it ruin my day? Would it ruin my week? Would it, you know, cause me to go into a downward spiral emotionally? Probably not. You know, I'm just not that. I mean, I feel like I'm not that emotionally attached to any famous people or artists that it would be anything more than, you know, a sense of deep disappointment, but not like devastating, you know? Neil Klein, I want to ask you a question, but the truth is that too much has happened in the last month, and your videos have, pardon the cliche, spoken for themselves well enough to answer my questions. Just hope you are having a productive, fun month and not letting the madness in the world test your emotional resolve to be defiant and happy. Being joyful is one of the best ways to rebel against the stupidity. You know, I kind of agree with that, Neil, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad that my videos have spoken for themselves, and I'm glad you you know, contributed something, even though you didn't have a question. I appreciate that. Yeah, what is it? Looking good is the best revenge, but maybe being happy is the second best revenge. None your business. Ceasefire. Maybe Trump's working on his golf game. Would it be better if you moved off Turtle Island to Hawaii? I know its sovereignty wasn't respected by whites like you, but at least you wouldn't be stinking up T Island. So why not take one for the team? You could stream it live. I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Thank you for the question, and thank you for being a supporter. I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Brian McKinley. It saves time. Brian McKinley. Hey, Steve, I've been watching a reaction channel that's going through all the Trek series in release order. I started because it was fun to watch them reacting to DS9 for the first time. Now, inevitably, they've started the Voyager series too. It's weird to watch the first season of Voyager again, since I agree with your assessment that the show never lived up to its potential. Do you think Voyager actually started strong and dropped the ball, or was it always weak? I wouldn't say it started strong, but I think it started with a lot of promise. Like, I watched the first season of Voyager, and I don't think the first season of Voyager is outstanding by any means, but I don't think it's bad for the most part either. It feels like a show that started out with pretty solid foundation and was, sort of trying to find its way, to find its voice, and it just never really got there. And eventually it just settled into this kind of middling rhythm where it still had this starting premise. It still had this concept that could have been used for something interesting. The ship lost in the other side of the galaxy and the crew that was divided, where they were enemies and then they had to work together. Like all of those elements were always there. But the longer the show went and didn't really use any of those pieces for anything, the less important they felt. And eventually the show just kind of, it just sort of, you just got used to it being mostly mediocre. And every once in a while it would surprise you and throw out a really good episode. But those were relatively few and far between. And then every once in a while it would surprise you the other direction and do something that was really, really, really rotten. But mostly it was just kind of, so, it dropped the ball in slow motion. It didn't, there wasn't like a moment. I mean, for me, what made me stop watching the show was the Year of Hell two-parter, where I was like, okay, if they don't care about it, then neither do I. Like, if the people who make the show don't give a shit, then I don't give a shit either. And I'd stop watching it regularly after that point. But the show had been going into the toilet creatively leading up to that for a while. So it was a very slow, gradual process. But so, no, I don't think it didn't start strong, but it started with potential. And then it just kind of never really made a sustained effort to live up to the potential. Wolfram and Hart admitted the spoilers beyond this point is really a riff on the Here Be Dragons from old-timey maps, showing the areas unexplored with dragons near the compass. Also, Ship in a Bottle review reminds me of the significant wasted potential of Picard Season 3. The Borg as villains has become an overused crutch. I so much would have preferred Moriarty or the space earwigs from Conspiracy being the big bads of the season. Made more narrative sense as well. Well, either one of those would have been preferable to the Borg simply because, as you mentioned, the Borg had been done to death by that point. They had become overused by Star Trek in general, and they were overused by Picard as well. Like the Picard series used the Borg in significant roles in all three of its seasons. I think there's a very strong argument to be made that the Borg shouldn't have been in the Star Trek Picard series at all. Like, we've seen the Borg. The Borg stuff has been done. And it's not like they had any really great ideas about the Borg anyway, except maybe for the idea of exploring, how ostracized the ex-Borg people are in the Federation, and kind of use that as a way of shedding light on how actually the Federation isn't as tolerant as it claims to be, and using that for some social commentary. Like, that idea in season 1 of Picard had potential, but as they did with pretty much everything else in that series, they didn't actually do anything interesting with it. But beyond that, like, there's no good Borg stuff in the show other than that potentially interesting idea in season 1. So yes, on that basis, yes, sure, Moriarty is a more interesting suggestion than the Borg again. The space earwigs from Conspiracy are a more interesting suggestion than the Borg again. But the fact that you bring both of those up, to me, just illustrates the inherent problem with the Picard series from the beginning, not just, and with the approach to the Picard series that the creators took, and also with the approach to the Picard series that most of the fans took, which is you're still looking back and you're looking for shit from the old show to bring back. How about a villain that we've never met before? How about they invent a new villain? How about they invent a new threat? How about instead of saying what character or villain or setting or circumstance from TNG can we bring back for this new show? How about we say TNG happened, it's in the past, it's done. This is 20 years later for these characters, 20 years since the movies, like almost 30 years at that point since TNG. Let's see where they're at now. Let's do something different about these characters at this point in their lives, instead of dragging shit from TNG all the way back in. Like, I feel very strongly, whether it's season 3 or season 2 or season 1, the villain of Star Trek Picard, the subject of Star Trek Picard, should have been something involving those characters, but created for that show instead of a callback to something from TNG. You know, like, and I feel like that assumption of, well, what other villain from TNG should they have used instead of the Borg? That to me illustrates the essential problem with the show. That it was mostly in the minds of the fans and in the minds of the people who made it. It was mostly just an excuse to bring back old stuff. And I'm just fundamentally disinterested in that. Simon Moody. There was a question raised in the chat 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry, I forget whose it was, that I thought was worth getting a full answer to from you, Steve. It was this: if you could have an evening of conversation and dinner with any 4 other people, living or dead, who would they be? The conversation at the time was about actors, so my own picks were very actor-centric, but go where you want with this. Okay, I mean, I talked about this question with Dana earlier, and she said, well, your first answer would probably be that you don't want to have dinner with anybody, which may in fact be the correct answer. But in the interest of humoring the question, I would have to have Orson Welles there. I would love for Orson Welles to be one of the people. I would love, let me see, what's someone other than Orson Welles? Can I just have Orson Welles all to myself? That's Orson Welles. That counts for all 4 people. Orson Welles from Orson Welles from 4 different points in his life. That's my answer. No, Orson Welles, maybe Freddie Mercury. Let's see, that's an actor and a singer. Maybe I should pick like a historical figure, like Harriet Tubman or something. so Orson Welles, Freddie Mercury, Harriet Tubman, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. I don't see. This is why I don't like these questions, because I don't really think about this stuff. Like, I don't really sit around imagining if I could have dinner with 4 people who I like. I don't. I'm not well practiced answering these questions. So you know what? I'm just going to go back to 4 different versions of Orson Welles. That's going to be my answer. MW Ridra. I honestly have no problem with dumbasses. Not everyone can be smart, and I am often entertained by smartasses. I watch your channel after all. Ka-ching. However, I cannot stand a dumb smartass. Is there anything worse than a smug dumb fuck who thinks he's clever? These Dunning-Kruger dipshits drive me up the fucking wall. Worse, it seems to me that there's been an explosion of dumb smartasses in the last 10 to 15 years. Do you agree? Yes. I kind of alluded to them earlier when I was talking about, like, you know, the MAGA types being quiet, or at least me perceiving them as being quiet relating to the Artemis mission. I mean, God, how many dipshit doofus right-wing podcasters are there? And they all fit that dumb smartass description. You know, dumb smartass, or dumb people who are convinced that they're smart. Tim Pool, Ben Shapiro, Joe fucking Rogan. Like, how many of these guys are there who are like, they've convinced themselves that they're like these philosopher kings. They're these geniuses who have such interesting things to say and are so insightful and are so just canny with media analysis and political takes. And they're the dumbest, just most fucking, general issue, bottom shelf, just garden variety racists. Like, that's really all there. They're just garden variety, dumb white guy racists and xenophobes and misogynists and, et cetera, et cetera. But they've convinced themselves that they're like these great, hilarious, insightful people with all of this to say that's of value. And that's exactly what they are. You said it. Dunning-Kruger dipshits, dumb smartasses. I will add this qualifier, however. In works of fiction, especially comedy. They're the gift that keeps on giving. I think Catherine O'Hara said, before she died, obviously, there was they replayed an interview with her from I think from Fresh Air on NPR shortly after she died, and she said something about I think the way she phrased it was confident and dumb, or confident and stupid. You can't go wrong. And that's true. Like, that's comedy gold. And I can attest to that, because how many in my videos, in the Ensign's log, like how hard do I lean on that crutch? How often do I write to that and play to that? The confident dumbass, the guy who is a complete doofus, a complete dipshit, but is absolutely sure he's right, is absolutely sure he's the smart one. And there's just something about that that is, to me, is just unfailingly funny. And thankfully, to a lot of other people, they seem to feel the same way. But yeah, so but other than that, other than as a fictional sort of comedic trope, yes, dumb smartasses are the worst, and there has been a veritable explosion of them in the last 10 or 15 years. Isaiah, we're taking Pink Pony Club to the moon, Steve. Ah, to the moon. Personally, I've always wanted to go to the moon. Luna is far more important to me than Mars. While Mars has indeed played an important part in human history, the moon has been an arguably bigger impact on us. It has been a place of our wonder, hopes, dreams, and even our fears. Every day since Artemis launched, I've been staring at the moon from work here in Tallahassee. She calls me, Steve. So close, yet so unbelievably far. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. I never get tired of whenever I see the moon up in the sky. It's never old to me. One of the most wonderful thoughts that I can think is the moon is a place. I love, and of course, every other object in the sky is a place too. Like all those stars, they're places, and I love that idea. I love that knowledge. It's not just an abstract idea. It's a fact. Those stars are all places, those planets, the moon. And I think the moon is the most tantalizing because it's so close and because it looms so large in the sky. That's not just an object in the sky. That's not just a two-dimensional picture of like a round thing floating up there. That's a place. You could go there. People have gone there. People just did go there. That's just such an amazing thought to me. And Isaiah has another question too. So, Steve, did you follow the launch and mission? What about those photos? I've never seen the moon like that before. Of course, the deniers are having a freak out, but who cares about that? And yes, one of the wake up songs was Pink Pony Club by Chapel Roan. So now I don't feel awkward writing this fanfic about her being an astronaut. I was a bit bummed, actually, about the mission taking place as our world goes to shit. Can't wait to hear your opinion about this historic event. Well, I mean, yes, the mission took place while the world was going to shit, but so did Apollo 8. Apollo 8 happened in 1968, which, as I'm sure you know, because you're a nerd for the history of the space program, just as I am, and I'm sure you are fully aware of what was going on in the world and in the United States in the late 60s, in addition to the Apollo program. And the Apollo 8 mission, which was a lot like Artemis 2, was a beacon of hope for people back then as well. It was like a thing, and that took place at the end of the year. So it was even more of like, oh God, thank God something good happened. In fact, I think somebody said, one of the mission control guys said to the Apollo 8 crew, they said, you saved 1968. Because like finally something good happened in 1968. And Artemis 2 feels a lot like that. Like, yes, there's a lot of really, really awful shit happening down here. The war in Iran, all the chaos all around the world, all of the bullshit that we have dealt with here in the United States. And yet we can, for the last week, we've been able to look up and go, well, at least we did that, so it happened in that sense. I think it happened at the perfect time. And yes, I've been amazed by the pictures, the most beautiful photographs of the moon I think I've probably ever seen, especially those ones that they got of the far side. Oh, amazing. amazing. It's been wonderful. It's been wonderful to see. Glenn H. Hey, Steve, a simple dilemma for you to address today. What's worse, no new Star Trek or bad new Trek? Choose between 5 years of no Trek or an immediately available Picard season 4. Have a great show and keep up the good work. I mean, if I was going to be selfless, I would say I would rather just have no Star Trek for 5 years. Uh, you know, give it a chance to reset. There's an old saying, "How could I miss you if you won't go away?" And there's another saying that's related to that, which I also like, which is you got to go away to come back. And I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world for Star Trek to go dark for a few years while they figure out something else. But that's the selfless version. The selfish version is I make a lot of videos about Star Trek, and I feel like interest in Star Trek is higher when it is, you know, in production or when there is new Star Trek being released. So it would probably be better for me if they just started cranking it out again. But my own selfish interests aside, I think it would be better for them to take a break. Yeah. JDC, hey Steve, hope you're doing well. You mentioned Trump's COVID response in a video the other day. Any thoughts on Biden's? I'm, to put it politely, deeply disappointed in both of them. Cheers. Well, yeah, I mean, Biden's COVID response wasn't outstanding either, but compared to Trump's, it was fantastic. I mean, Trump set the bar so low that having a president like Biden, who was, you know, at least like encouraging people to wear masks and get vaccinated and wasn't actively spreading dangerous conspiracy theories and trying and going out of his way like to deny, you know, how many people were getting sick, like that was such a vast improvement that compared to Trump, it's like, yeah, you know what, Joe did pretty good. He probably didn't. You know, I know there were our response to COVID in the United States in general compared to other countries where it was taken more seriously and where the death toll per capita was much lower. Our response was bad across the board, no matter who was president. But Trump's was so much worse than Biden's that it's kind of hard to feel all that mad at Biden for what he did, because it was so much of an improvement on what Trump did. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, if you have criticisms of Biden's COVID policy as well, I'm certainly not going to fight you on it. See a Mac, who's going to need a minute. Dude, the last 5 weeks, it's been a lot. I'm going to need a minute. Feel free to vamp. I will just say this. I don't want to vamp too long because I still have a few questions to get through and we've been going for a while, but I will just say this. I hear you. I feel you. Hopefully things turn out okay. I have no idea if they will or not, but I know what you're talking about, and yeah, yeah. Take a minute. Take a minute. Take all the time you need, my friend. Next question from Damian Williams. Steve, I wonder if there are any horror movies you like. We have so many genre overlaps. I wonder if that is another one. Oh, I mentioned the more recent one earlier, the new 28 Years Later movies. 28 Days Later, which I think is you know, one of my favorites. Let the Right One In. I mean, and going back to like classic stuff, I mean, I love the Universal horror movies. I love Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. I love the Invisible Man and the Wolf Man are not only two of my favorite horror movies, they're two of my favorite movies, period. I absolutely adore the Invisible Man and the Wolf Man. I like the Hammer stuff from the 50s and 60s, Curse of Frankenstein, Horror of Dracula. Really all of the Peter Cushing Frankensteins are great. I love And Frankenstein Created Woman. That's such a great movie. And Dracula Prince of Darkness, which is the second Christopher Lee Dracula, is also just really, really outstanding. I love the George Romero zombie movies. I love Night of the Living Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead, the original Day of the Dead. I love the original Halloween. There's just a lot. I like a lot of horror movies. I like a lot of horror movies. Okay, Russell. Hey, Steve, I got some questions about Star Trek. Some of these topics we have briefly discussed before. First off, I like what you said in a recent video about Star Trek being commentary to politics. That being said, first question, does capitalism exist inside Star Trek? My short answer is yes, even though Starfleet tends to take more of a social approach. But I can't ignore the fact that even young Ensign Kim has credit/latinum to buy his parents a gift from Quarks. I could list several, and then this is the second part of Russell's question, so we'll just keep going. Several examples, like Scotty buying a boat and this on Earth. Again, I know it tries to take a social approach to things. This is fiction, but as writers are writing a utopian society, there is oftentimes flaws. Another one being racism inside Star Trek. A friend of mine pointed out today, from McCoy's behavior toward Spock to O'Brien's hatred of Cardassians. Again, I can list examples, but limitations. If you was a writer, how would you solve these issues? How do we solve these issues in real life? See you soon. I wouldn't solve those issues because I don't see them as problems. I don't think there is any problem to be solved in the fiction of having characters that still exhibit racist attitudes, or of having a cashless society, a moneyless society that still has to engage in capitalistic, commerce from time to time because it has relations with other societies that still do use capitalism. Like, I don't think either of these are flaws in the story. I think it's just a part of how that world works. And I think it makes sense for a couple of different reasons. It makes sense from kind of an in-story sort of realism version, because why would everything just be the same all over the place? If we judge the Federation as being more economically advanced because they no longer have a money-based economy, well, that's fine. But does that mean that every other alien society they encounter and they have dealings with are going to be exactly the same? Like, it's not very interesting. And it doesn't seem to leave a lot of potential open for story if you wanted to do it that way. And the same thing with the racist attitudes. How would I figure? Would I make McCoy not behave that way towards Spock? No, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I have a problem with it in real life. Like, I don't want people to be racist to each other in real life, but a fictional character exhibiting racist attitudes in a story toward another character, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, unless your point is to say, this is good, you should all do this. Like, but I don't think that's the point. I don't think you're meant to watch Star Trek and say, yeah, McCoy's right. Spock is a pointy-eared, green-blooded bastard. Fuck Spock. And fuck every Vulcan. You know what I mean? Like, so no, there's not a problem to be solved. The trick is, what do you use those things for? What stories do you tell with them? What points do you make? Are you going to use that to make a point to the audience to illustrate that actually racism is bad and we shouldn't aspire to that? And if we find those attitudes in our own hearts, we should fight against them? You can tell that story. And I think Star Trek has told that story a time or two. And I think that's good. So no, there's no issue to solve in the fiction. As for how do we solve those issues in real life, I mean, I'll get back to you. Like, if I had that figured out, I probably would have told you by now. Caitlin, who mentally drafted this 10 days ago, but didn't type it until today. Since we've been talking quite a bit about show not tell lately, I thought I'd ask you to talk a bit about how many people misinterpret that as saying camera, not dialogue, when the camera can tell just as much as dialogue. After all, compare the camera lovingly ogling Captain Giorgio's shelves versus Captain Ake's trinkets being treated as incidental. And books have no cameras, yet can equally show... Oh, but that's not a question. Apples or pears? Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is... A lot of the problem with media analysis in general these days is people take everything literally. So when you say show, don't tell, they interpret that literally. And they mean, oh, so don't have people talking about things, just have the camera showing things. And you're absolutely right. You can use the camera to tell just as much as any other technique. The point of showing, not telling, is you don't lead the audience up to it by the nose. You demonstrate it in a way that allows the audience to notice it for themselves. It's in there, it's important, but you're not pointing at it, you're not underlining it. It's just there. And the audience finds it for themselves. And that is more respectful to an audience. And that also demands more attention from an audience. And it's also, I think, a more sophisticated way to tell a story, and is ultimately a more satisfying way for the audience that actually pays attention, because you're not having everything spoon fed to you. You're actually experiencing it through the telling of the story. And that's what show don't tell means. And yes, you're absolutely right. A camera focusing on something is basically the director's way of shouting at you, this is important, pay attention to this. And maybe sometimes you want to do that. But there are other times when you just want to have things in the shot that people can notice. And maybe you want to place them in the shot in a particular way so that their eye is drawn to it, but you don't want to move the camera right in on it to go, don't miss this, right? That would be telling, not showing, even though you're not actually having a character say anything. So no, you're absolutely right. And I think a lot of it is just people have become very, very literal minded and one-dimensional in their thinking. And a lot of people have learned criticism and critique by watching YouTube videos, and unfortunately have never read books about film analysis, have never even read like proper movie reviews, which critics still write. There are still such things as movie reviews written by professional movie critics. A lot of people don't read those. They've never read, they've never listened to directors talking about the films they make, or actors talking about, or writers talking about the films they make, or writers talking about the books they write. They've never listened to commentary tracks on DVDs. They've never listened to, filmmakers or actors or writers give lectures or talk about theory or talk about technique. So they have never learned this vocabulary, and they've never gotten into the habit of engaging with art on anything other than a literal surface level. And they think that's the only thing that matters. And actually they think that's the only thing that's actually there. So from that point of view, it makes sense that someone would say, oh, show, don't tell. Oh, right. Yeah. Just use the camera and don't have characters talk about it. And that's not at all what that means. It's about the storytelling method, and the approach to conveying information to an audience, not, camera or dialogue. But no, I agree with you completely. You're absolutely right. Oh, and apples. And last question from John Burns. This year is an election year. Not that it matters, as it's always one long cycle. What do you expect from these midterms? First of all, just because it's a cycle doesn't mean that the election doesn't matter. Just because there's going to be an election in 2 years doesn't mean the election this year doesn't matter. Like, that's a very strange way to look at it, my friend. Oh, yeah, there's an election this year, but I mean, there's going to be an election after that too, so who cares? Like, that's what? What do I expect from these midterms? I am trying not to have solid expectations. I hope the Democrats do well. I would like for us to at least take back the House. I think that will probably happen. I think the Democrats will at least take back control of the House. It would be really nice if we could take control of the Senate too, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. But I would say at this, and when we're still a little ways off too, it's only April, and the general election isn't until November, so we've still got a ways to go here. Most states haven't even had primaries yet. My state of Maryland hasn't had its primary yet. So I mean, I expect the Democrats to do reasonably well. I'll put it that way. At this point in history, with this far to go from the election, right now, I expect the Democrats to do reasonably well. But that's as far as I'm willing to go at this point. All right. That was the last patron and member question. I am going to turn my full attention to the live chat. Actually, let me do what I usually do and reset the live chat viewer, because look, it has crapped out on me, as it usually does. And while that is rebooting itself, let me say that I am about to show for everybody a brand new Stuffy and Friends short. It's that time again, before I turn to the live chat, where I show you a brand new Stuffy and Friends short. And once again, this one is like absolutely piping hot. I shot it on Wednesday. I edited it yesterday. I wrote it some time ago, but I shot it just a few days ago. So it is brand spanking new and ready to go. And as always, it will go up as a standalone short, a standalone YouTube short on this channel tomorrow at noon Eastern. But because you have the class and sophistication and self-evidently excellent taste to be watching this show right now, you get to see it before anybody else. So please do enjoy this brand new Stuffy and Friends short. Have you ever been in a gang?
As long as it's understood this conversation is for entertainment purposes only and in no way amounts to a confession, yes. How come? Do you want to put in your application?
I think I'd be an asset to any criminal organization. Don't you think so, Stuffy?
No.
What are you talking about? I'd be great in a gang. If you three were planning on robbing a bank, you'd be nuts to exclude me from the job.
What skills do you possess that would make you an asset to our unlawful enterprise?
I'm creative. I could do any job you needed me to do.
What part of the bank job would you want?
I don't know. What's the easiest job I could do where I still got an equal share of the money?
Could you do something to distract the guards while the rest of us got into position?
Absolutely. Check this out. Hans, you be the guard.
What is my motivation?
You want to stop people from robbing the bank.
Yeah. All right. I've got it. You may begin.
Okay. Hey, look over there! Those guys are robbing the bank!
What are you talking about?
This! Bang! 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 Who else wants some? You! You! Looks like I got you already. Still got some life left in you, though, huh? Hey, how much does it cost to cross the river Styx? 25? Here's 38. Bang! Keep the change. What do you think?
You've got the job.
Really? You think Steve stealing a gun from a guard and shooting up the place would make a good distraction for our bank robbery?
Aye, so long as he doesn't do it at the same bank we're at. The coppers will be so busy with him at that bank that we'll be able to clean out another bank across town and take our bloody time doing it.
Glad to help. You just make sure my share is waiting for me when I get out of prison. Oh, speaking of which, here you go.
9, I do not need it. I am dead.
That's right.
Duh. Whoa, don't do that.
Careful of that thing.
Oh, but we have fun. Before I get to the live chat, let me acknowledge a couple of super chats that came in while I was blathering on answering the questions submitted by my wonderful patrons and members. Debbie Bannister with the super chat said, "You are amazing, Steve. So informative." Thank you very much for your generosity, Debbie. I really appreciate that. Mr. Downside and the Last with a super chat. Thank you very much, my friend. Says, was gonna bitch about being 1099, but seeing as someone mentioned Fallout earlier, I replayed the series on my off time, and man, has that IP been flanderized. Still enjoy the slop, though. Any IP you feel the same about? It's hard to think of one. I mean, you could say that they have kind of slopified Ghostbusters. We mentioned Ghostbusters earlier, and the Afterlife and Frozen Empire. I wouldn't say I've enjoyed it, though. I mean, I do think it's kind of been given that treatment, but I wouldn't say I've enjoyed it necessarily. And Damian Williams with a member message says, if you've never read a Roger Ebert review, you missed out on a great American writer. Oh, you are absolutely right. Ebert was not only a great film critic, he was a great writer, like, period. And I mean, he won a Pulitzer Prize for writing. Like, he's like, what else do you want a Pulitzer Prize for? But yeah, he won a Pulitzer Prize. He's a great writer, or was a great writer. And his writing still, like, you can still go to his website and read his old reviews. And I highly recommend that people do that, because he was a fantastic film critic, whether you agreed with him or not. There were lots of his reviews where I thought he was completely out to lunch. I was like, what the fuck movie did he see? I disagreed with him, but he was a terrific writer and a great model of like what a film critic, should be. He was, yeah, I highly recommend reading Roger Ebert if you have not. Let's see what people are saying here. The cynical optimist says, I agree with you that once the primaries finish, people need to vote. But do you think there should be red lines, e.g., Plattner's Nazi tattoo and history of bigotry, Swalwell's essay allegations, etc.? Well, I think you should vote against them in the primary. But when the time, if like, let's say Plattner does get the nomination, right? Would you rather have him or would you rather have a Republican? Like, that's the choice. I absolutely vote if you are eligible to vote in that election. Vote against him in the primary. Like, vote for somebody else in the primary. If you're in California, vote for somebody else in the primary for in the governor's race instead of Eric Swalwell. Absolutely. But it's going to come down to a Democrat and a Republican. That's the choice. And as shitty as Plattner's history is, and as inexcusable as it is, and I'm completely on board with that, if it comes down to him or a vote for Donald Trump, a vote for the Republican agenda, who are you going to pick? Because it's going to be one of those two, Cyrano Johnson says, I love Hans. Me too. Hans is great. A Sinister Intelligence. This is Isaiah says, been watching From the Earth to the Moon. Last night was actually 1968 and tonight is Spider. I got to rewatch that show sometime. I have it on DVD and I haven't watched it in forever. I've really got to rewatch it because I love that show. I love From the Earth to the Moon so much. On Bathtub Gareth says, which YouTubers do you watch that are not sci-fi related? Ryan George, pitch meetings, because they're hilarious and I really enjoy them. I watch a lot of wrestling related stuff. I watch like the WCW Vault and WWE Vault when they put up old shows. Let me see. A lot of Conan O'Brien clips. Seth Meyers, correct. In fact, there's probably a new episode of Corrections up. I think or maybe they're not back yet. I can't remember. I don't know, but I'm a religious viewer of Corrections on the Late Night with Seth Meyers channel. Whenever Dan Olson has a new one, I watch that. Whenever ContraPoints has a new one, I watch that. Whenever Abigail Thorne has a new one, I watch that. Yeah, there's probably others. I don't know. I mean, honestly, most of the YouTube channels I watch are not sci-fi related. I don't really watch that many. The only of my fellow like Star Trek YouTubers, the only one that I make an effort to watch on a regular basis is Jesse. And that's no disrespect to any of the others. It's just I'm not generally all that interested in it, which sounds weird because I talk about it myself so much, but like I'm generally not that interested in watching like, sci-fi or Star Trek related video essays. David Colby says, while Invention of the Replicator isn't a story, how people react to the invention of the replicator is more of a legal social drama rather than an adventure show. Yeah, I suppose I can kind of see that. I mean, I can see that as the starting point of something. Yeah. Stephen G. Claret says it's a big shit sandwich and we all got to take a bite. I mean, that's really true. And you can't avoid it. Like you're going to take a bite out of the shit sandwich no matter what. Boxy Brown, Trek culture. I mean, not usually. No. I mean, again, nothing like I love Sean. I love Bree, but as a rule, like I don't watch Trek culture stuff that often. Okay, a couple of super chats just came in. Here's one from Kirok. Thank you very much. Says the Stuffy short forgot the part where you say keep the change, you filthy animal, and Happy New Year. No, I intentionally didn't say that because I didn't want it to become a dumb Home Alone reference. I wanted the reference to be, the joke isn't remember that joke from Home Alone. The joke is, how much does it cost to cross the river Styx? Oh, 25. Here's 38, meaning a 38 caliber bullet that I just murdered him with. Keep the change. That's the joke. That's the joke that I wrote. I wanted to do a joke that I wrote, not steal a joke from a movie I don't even like. And Neil Klein with a super chat. Thank you, my friend. This is for loving From the Earth to the Moon. Thank you. Isn't that a great show? I love From the Earth to the Moon. And Mr. Downside in the Last says, Mania build. Oh, a wrestling question. I was hoping somebody would ask a wrestling question. Mania build thoughts. AEW thoughts. Gun to my head, though. Thoughts on Chikara. Loved them till the bad stuff came out and I dropped wrestling. And I don't think I've ever watched any Chikara. I've never watched any Chikara. And I haven't watched AEW for close to 3 years. I stopped watching AEW when Punk got fired. I have come back and watched a few odd matches here and there. Like if there was a particular match that I really wanted to see, or that was getting like a lot of buzz and people were saying, you got to see this match. I've gone back and rewatched and caught up on particular matches. But I lost complete interest in the show and the things I've heard about what they're doing creatively and just, the AEW of it all, like just that style of wrestling where it's just, move, kick out, kick out, kick out, kick out, kick out until somebody doesn't kick out. Like that's not my style of wrestling. I'm not interested in that. But Mania build thoughts, I think they've done fantastic with Punk versus Roman. I think Punk versus Roman is the best build to a WrestleMania main event in years. It's just been outstanding. I don't think they've done anything wrong with it at all. Like, I think it's been tremendous. I wish I could say the same thing about Cody and Randy. I think the match, Cody versus Orton, is inherently compelling, but it just feels like they decided to do it at the last minute. And so the build has been really, really rushed. And what feels like it should be like a massive, like generation defining match, like Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton should be a major event, should be a huge deal. And it just doesn't feel like that because they've rushed into it and they threw Pat McAfee into it for no reason. And it's not what it feels like it should be. And I don't think it's Randy or Cody's fault. It's just, it feels like they decided to do it at the last minute and they're just trying to speed run through it. And it just ain't working. I mean, I'm sure the match will be good, or I hope the match will be good. But the build hasn't been that great. But the build for Punk and Roman has been fantastic. The build for Oba versus Brock, I think, has been really, really good. And I'm really looking forward to that match. And I'm a big fan of Oba. So I've liked that. Everything else is just kind of a blur. I mean, I'm glad that it looks like they're going to do a singles match for the US title, unless they make that a 3-way by throwing Carmelo in there, which I hope they don't. Nothing against Carmelo. I think he's great, but like, I don't like 3-way and 4-way and 5-way matches. That's why I'm not looking forward to like the tag team clusterfucks where they just throw everybody in there at once. Or like the ladder match for the IC title where it's going to be Penta versus like 4 or 5 other guys and like just a car crash. I'm not a fan of that match. I find those kind of matches just incredibly dull because nothing means anything. But I would much rather, I really hope that they actually do, Sami Zayn versus Trick for the US title as a singles match. I think I could get into that match. I think could be an interesting, cool match. But I'm afraid they're going to make that a 3-way or a 4-way or whatever. And I really hope they don't, but I'm afraid they might do that. But as far as the main events, Punk and Roman, outstanding. Cody and Randy, I wish it was outstanding. I want it to be outstanding. Cody's like my favorite guy, but it's just not what it needs to be. And Oba and Brock, I think, has been fantastic. So, yeah. Let's see. Super chat from Kirok. No love for Home Alone. To each their own. I agree. Thank you, my friend. I mean, how many times do I have to reiterate that I don't like Home Alone? I don't like Home Alone. 255 AD says the fans of Invincible came up with a theory to explain why the main character's power level is so inconsistent. It was put to the creator in a podcast, and he basically said, I don't think that makes sense. I make him as strong as he needs to be in each story. Power scaling is dumb. Some fans reacted like he was being ungrateful to the people who came up with the theory. Well, fuck those people. The writer doesn't owe them that. What the fuck is he supposed to be grateful for? What the fuck? What kind of presumptuous bullshit? Oh, but you should appreciate that we came up with some bullshit for, like, I don't fuck. He doesn't owe them a goddamn thing. You know what the writer owes do you know what the writer owes the audience? The story. That's what the writer owes the audience. The fucking story. You know what the filmmakers owe the audience? The movie. Transaction complete. If you pay a ticket to see a movie and you see the movie, transaction complete. You can like it or not like it, that's up to you. But they owe you nothing more beyond that. And a writer or a creator of something certainly doesn't owe it to a bunch of fucking nerds with too much time on their hands to humor them and pat them on the head when they come up with a cute little theory to explain what they perceive to be an inconsistency in the work. Because, you should be more appreciative to the fans for coming up with this theory. Why should he appreciate it? But is he going to use it now? He's said that he doesn't see it that way. He doesn't write it that way. He doesn't view that theory as having any value. So what's he supposed to do? Fucking applaud just for the sake of it? Fuck that. No, fuck. People, writers and creators in general, I think, need to be pushing back super hard against fan entitlement. Like, look, I think it's nice that you felt the need to come up with a theory to explain something in my work that doesn't need fucking explaining. Good for you. I hope you had fun doing it, because I'm not going to fucking throw you a birthday party for it. Like, that should be the response. Oh, you're so ungrateful. Fuck you. Fuck you. Daryl Letts says, okay, Steve, I was looking through a county-by-county popular vote tally for Trump and Kamala Harris, and I discovered one of the closest places, Trump by 6 votes, was Talbot County, Maryland. No shit. How about that? 6 votes. I mean, I probably didn't make a difference anyway, because Harris won Maryland pretty handily, but that's interesting. Caitlin says, you're so patient with re-explaining your desire to go for original material. Well, not everybody watches every fucking thing I ever do. So maybe people, they're not hip to my feeling on that yet. Dana says, hey, Steve, we talked a little about the tissue factory worker. Well, the former tissue factory worker. Got any thoughts to share with the group? No, other than what I said to you when we talked about it, which is good for him. And I mean, to anybody who doesn't know about this story, and I haven't had time to look into it. And Dana was the one who told me about it. I was not hip to it, but apparently what happened was this guy worked for what was it? Was it, I forget, Kimberly something. I can't remember the name of the company, but the tissue factory. And he asked for a raise, and the boss said, we can't give you a raise. So the guy burned down the motherfucking building. And I said, oh, good for him. And that's really all I have to say about it. Let me see. Alyssa Hallister says, I'm glad I also watched Jessie. She convinced me to try Lower Decks, and I loved it. No shade on your opinion of the show, but I'm glad I got both sides on that one, while usually more agreeing with you. Well, I'm glad you like it. Like, no shade on your opinion either. People can have different, I don't hold it against Jessie. She obviously likes the show a lot more than I do. We joke about it and kind of give each other a hard time, but I don't think any less of her for liking a show that I don't like. Kimberly Clark. Thank you, Dana. I knew Kimberly something. I was like Kimberly something, but I couldn't think of the, Dana says, I'm not hip in general. How dare you? How dare you? Stephen G. Clenard says, creators have a sacred duty to piss off the fanboys. Yes, and they have been derelict in that duty for quite some time. Oh, Darth Eddie, that's interesting. Oh, that warms my heart. Darth Eddie says, I did some math about Cody's hold on the title belt and how many days, and right now he's about 37 days away from passing Triple H's total days holding the championship. Cody is poised on the top 10 list. That makes me feel good. I would not be shocked if Cody lost the title to Orton at Mania, especially since the fans seem to be reacting a lot more strongly to Orton than they are to Cody at the moment. But then again, Cody just won it back. So it wouldn't, I mean, I really have no idea how that match is going to go, but it wouldn't surprise me if Orton won it. But then, Cody would just need to basically win it one more time and not lose it for a couple of more weeks, and he would surpass Triple H's total number of days with the title. And that would make me really happy because as a wrestler, I find Triple H to be one of the most overrated and overhyped wrestlers that has ever worked. Not that he was bad by any stretch of the imagination, and not that he didn't have a ton of good matches. But I mean, this idea that like Triple H should be on Wrestling Mount Rushmore is just absurd. Like, it's just fucking ridiculous. Wolferman Hart says, isn't it fascinating that Orson Welles' last performance was as the voice of Unicron with that booming voice in the Transformers animated movie? Yeah, it is. What a career trajectory to go from, the Mercury Theater on the radio in the 30s to making some of the greatest films ever made in the 40s and even, into the 50s as well. He a lot of his work is very underrated post Citizen Kane. But then kind of, going off into the wilderness and struggling for all those years and having to take roles that were basically beneath him in order to, to raise money for the projects that he actually wanted to do. And yeah, he finishes his career doing a voice in the Transformers movie, which is kind of appropriate because, he was working as a voice actor, and that's how he got his start. He was a voice actor on the radio. Ryan Debut says, question, Star Trek Academy, how come the Doctor doesn't have a higher rank? I mean, the Doctor never really had an official rank at all on Voyager. And they never mentioned his rank on Starfleet Academy. So I just sort of assumed that's still the situation, that he doesn't have an official rank. He has positions. He is the chief medical officer, which is a position, not a rank, but he doesn't have a formal rank. That's how it was on Voyager, and they never addressed it on Academy specifically, nor should they have. But so I assume that's still the case, that he actually doesn't have a rank. He's just the Doctor, and they use him as a doctor on, on ships or outposts or whatever. $255 AD says, one comment I saw was like, we offered him this perfect explanation on a plate and he just shit on it. And I immediately thought, I bet this would annoy Steve Shives. You are right, my friend. Yeah, it's like, you're not a perfect explanation for you. If the writer says, no, I don't care about that, that doesn't need to be explained. At least, from my perspective as the writer, that's not how I see it. That's it. Like, oh, thank you for explaining that thing that I don't think needs explaining. Like, yeah, the entitlement is just out. Not everybody gives a shit about this shit as much as you do. Not everybody sees this the way you do. Do you get that? Like that, this is just the fans who are doing these, this is just your opinion. This is just your shit. This is your shit. And if it's fun for you, if it's enjoyable for you to, to make up your shit, that's great. Do that. Do your shit. But don't expect other people to see your shit and go, oh man, great shit. The Vulcan Nerd says, good day to you, Steve. I want to say that I love your videos. For a long, you are my comfort YouTuber. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Jesus Christ, Kirok, are you serious? Aside from Code of Honor, Threshold, and Turnabout Intruder, name one Star Trek episode that was bad? Are you seriously trying? Is that like a challenge? One Star Trek. I enjoy it ironically, but fucking Spock's Brain, man. Spock's Brain is a terrible episode. Encounter at Farpoint, The Naked Now. I could just go through season 1 of TNG. Encounter at Farpoint, The Naked Now. Fucking, what was the second Q episode? Was that Hide in Q? Fucking terrible. The Passenger from season 1 of DS9. Tin Man from TNG. I've always thought that was a garbage episode. Nemesis. I mean, the movie Nemesis, but also the Voyager episode Nemesis. Fucking dog shit. Fucking terrible. There are so many bad Star Trek episodes. Every Star Trek show has had bad episodes. The idea, other than those 3 episodes, name one bad. There's so many bad Star Trek episodes. The entirety of Picard season 2. Most of Picard seasons 1 and 3 as well, but the entirety of Picard season 2. That's 10 bad episodes right there. Darth Eddie says, Jesse's a big Enterprise fan. Has she rubbed off on you in any way when it comes to appreciating Enterprise more? No. I kind of just feel how I feel about Enterprise. There are episodes of it that I really like, and there are episodes of it that I'm just like, why did they make this? You know? Sinister Intelligence says, have you seen Magnificent Desolation? Its cinematography, set design, and music score is heavily sampled from Apollo 13. I have not seen it. Oh, Caitlin with the Orson Welles pull from the outtakes of the wine commercial. Yes. The French. Their wine is celebrated for its excellence. I love it when okay, and action. And Orson just sits there. Action, Orson. Doesn't he do anything? But the best is the frozen food voiceover outtakes. Those are the best. When he's like, when they're trying to direct him, they're trying to like give Orson Welles line readings for this like fucking ridiculous, meaningless copy about like fucking fish sticks. And they're trying to tell him to say it this way. And Orson Welles is like, that you can't say it that way. It doesn't make any sense to say it that way. The right reading is the reading I'm giving it. And then eventually he's like, if you say one more word, you're out of here. Like, I will take direction from one person under protest, never from 2 people at once. Like, it's just, he has to be sitting there going, I'm fucking Orson Welles. I made Citizen Kane. I made The Magnificent Ambersons. I was in fucking The Third Man. I shouldn't have to do this shit. I should have to sit here while these fucking twerps who don't know shit about shit are telling me how to read copy for fucking frozen fish sticks. Oh, I love him so much. Yeah, CMAC, Tin Man. The thing about Tin Man, everybody in Tin Man looks miserable. All of the characters look absolutely miserable. Nobody looks like they want to be doing any of it. Like, and I noticed that maybe the first or second time I ever saw that episode. Even Picard looks, every time they cut to Picard, he looks just pissed and impatient and just not happy to be doing anything. And yeah, I do not like that episode at all. I do not like that episode at all. Caitlin, oh, Steve, you don't like Glimpse This? Staked to the ground and upturned. Yeah. Motherless Beast. So bad. So bad. Greg Gildersleeve says Disco season 4 is unwatchable to me. I think season 4 is one of the better seasons, actually. For me, the first half of Disco season 4 is actually really good. To me, it didn't start to fall off until the second half. The first half, they were rocking and rolling. I thought, man, they might have finally figured out this season-long story arc thing. They had some really good episodes, I thought, in the first half of season 4. And then they took a break. I think they took a break to release the first half of the first season of Prodigy, I think is what happened. And then after that, like the first 8 episodes, they took They released like the first half of season 4 of Discovery, then Discovery took a break and they released 8 episodes of Prodigy, and then they came back for the back half of season 4 of Discovery. And it's like, and I know they weren't still making it, like the shows were done. It's not like they were making the second half during the hiatus. Like it was all finished ahead of time. But even so, like it felt like, man, what happened during the break? Like, did they forget how to write this fucking show? Because like the second half of Discovery season 4 really fell off for me. I was like, what the fuck are they doing? And they got it back. I thought the last episode of season 4 was pretty good. I thought they kind of stuck the landing, but man, it was rough getting there. Whew, boy. But I mean, so I wouldn't say it was unwatchable, but it got a little turbulent there in the back half. Oh, Steven, that's great. The problem with Tin Man was that it had no heart. Oh, that's good. That's good. Yes, Caitlin, in July. Yes. Yes. Oh man, I'm gonna try to watch an Orson Welles movie this weekend. I realize I've never seen The Stranger, which is the third movie he directed, and he also stars in it. He didn't write it; he just directed it and starred in it. But he did Citizen Kane, he did Magnificent Ambersons, and then the third movie he did was The Stranger. And I don't think I've ever seen it, or if I have seen it, it was a long time ago. I don't really remember it. But it's Orson Welles starring and directing, and it's a film noir. And boy, I want to see that. So I'm going to make an effort to try and watch that this weekend if I have time. Zulu Romeo Sub Rosa. Yeah, Sub Rosa is a terrible episode too. I mean, like I said, there's lots of really bad stuff. Just because Sub Rosa didn't immediately come to mind. No, Sub Rosa is a terrible episode. I agree. Yeah. 285 AD says, my response to the sentiment in my question is that seeing us bending over backward to woo former Trumpers may alienate other people, specifically people of color and queer people. Broken priorities. I agree with that. And I've said for years, I think it's much more important to reach out to progressives who aren't voting than to try and flip Republicans. And I still believe that. Bathtub Gareth says, thoughts on For All Mankind. I've never watched it. I mean, I'll get around to it eventually. It seems like a show I would really like, but I've never watched it. Caitlin says, was that the one the studio cut without his permission after he was done? Magnificent Ambersons was, yeah. They cut Magnificent Ambersons without his approval. I don't know the story behind The Stranger. I don't know if they did that to The Stranger as well, but I know that was, yeah, the Magnificent Ambersons was one where and I think that was a case where eventually they did make kind of a restored, not quite a director's cut, but like a as much as was possible, like a restored, like Wells preferred version of it from the original theatrical cut. But so much of what they cut out was lost forever, that they couldn't make a proper, director's cut because it was so long after the fact. But I mean, the other thing, it's kind of like it's a similar situation to Erich von Stroheim's Greed, where yes, the movie was definitely butchered from the director's perspective. Like Orson Welles did not like that version, and that was not the version of the movie he wanted to make. But the version of Magnificent Ambersons that still exists is still fantastic. Just like the version of the version of Erich von Stroheim's Greed. And that's one of the most famous stories of like a studio butchering a director's movie. Like the original, the preferred cut of Greed that Erich von Stroheim wanted to have released was almost 9 hours long. And that was ridiculous. Like this, I feel like the studio was right to say, no, we're not releasing a motherfucking 9-hour movie, Erich von Stroheim. But Stroheim delivered a cut that I think was about 4 hours long, which is still insane, but is a lot better than 9 hours. And then eventually the studio cut it down to something like 2 hours. And that was the version that was released. And that is considered a masterpiece. Like the version of Greed that we have that was cut against the wishes of the director is still a masterpiece. But it's not the movie the director wanted to make. And I think that's very much the case with The Magnificent Ambersons as well. Like it's not the movie Orson Welles envisioned, but what we got is still pretty good. Power Ranger Donnie says, the first 2 seasons of Disco were good for me. The 3rd and 4th were okay. The final one started off decent, but went downhill until the final half of the series finale. I think for me, season 2 of Discovery is still probably the best season. And then after that, I would say season 4, because again, even though the second half of season 4 is a mess, they do really stick the landing. The last episode of season 4 is very good. I don't know if I agree with you about season 5. Season 5 is really uneven to me as well. There are some good episodes, but there's also, again, it's that problem that the second half of season 4 has where it's like, what are they doing? And I actually didn't like the final half of the series finale. I really wasn't crazy about the series finale in general. I think that the show deserved a better ending than that. And that the sort of epilogue stuff that I think was what they shot, after they got the cancellation news and they were able to go back and kind of finish it off. I feel like they would have been better off without that. I think the better ending is Michael and Book on the beach after Saru's wedding, and they go off on their next adventure. I feel like that's the end of the show. I don't need the epilogue that they did, like literally just to sew it up with Calypso, which is completely unnecessary. And I love Calypso. Calypso is one of my favorite things that this generation of Star Trek has produced. I think Calypso is still beautiful. I love that. It's just amazing. But I don't think Discovery needed to make sure that the end of their show seemed with Calypso like that. It's just, don't do that. The last 15, 20 minutes or so of the last episode of Discovery are probably my least favorite part of it. But that ending with Burnham and Book on the beach, that to me is a good ending. Like, just leave it at that. It doesn't wrap up every single fucking thing, but that's okay. It's a good note to end on, Kirok says, you are more or less my age. Please explain why Transformers, the film, 1986 animated version, destroyed our childhood. It didn't. Anybody who says that needs to detach themselves. I mean, I guess people were upset because they killed Optimus Prime, but like, if that destroyed your childhood, you must have had a really good childhood. It didn't destroy my childhood. I had an emotional reaction to it. I was sad because I was a Transformers fan and they killed Optimus Prime for like a year. Like, they brought him back. Like, he wasn't dead that long. But no, it shouldn't have destroyed anyone's childhood. If seeing Optimus Prime die in the Transformers movie destroyed your childhood, then you needed to fucking grow up anyway. That's what I would say to that. Oh, splashed out Artemis. Awesome. Thanks for the update. They made it. Awesome. Caitlin says, I was so glad they killed Optimus Prime. Oh, that's great. I think I've mentioned before, I'm a Rodimus Prime fan. I liked Rodimus Prime. I thought that was cool. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was, even as a kid, I thought, oh, that's neat. Like, they're changing it. They're making a new leader. I kind of like that. They're trying something. Even as like a 5 or 6 year old kid, I was like, oh, hey, look, good for them for trying something, But then all the fans were like, man, they killed Optimus. And they were like, okay, we'll bring him back. Fuck. you know? Anyway. Blade Winter says, do you think addressing the issues with the holodeck can be done in one episode, or would it have to be a season there? Please, just one episode. Please. Just one episode, please. Yeah, no, we don't need a whole season of television exploring, the problematic aspects of the holodeck as relates to generative AI. You can just make one episode. Just make one episode about it. Caitlin says, yeah, I was happy for Calypso to be simply a remnant of the original long way round time travel plan. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for Calypso to just be what it is. Just let it speak for itself. It's just a perfect little jewel of a short story. I love it. And I never expected Discovery to try and place it in a particular place in the timeline or explain what happened. Like, just stop. Just stop. Don't. Like, just stop. Kirag with a super chat. My NYPD Blue question. Didn't you wish Andy had more screen time as commanding officer, or did you enjoy the finale, or do you think they should do better? No, I thought it was just the way it should have been. I think, because here's the thing. I think especially a TV series that has been on for a while, I'm a big believer in natural endpoints. Because that's a really good way to make it feel like the ending of a series has some resolution and is satisfying if you can end it at what feels like a natural endpoint. And Andy getting promoted and taking over as the leader of the detective squad it feels like a natural endpoint. That feels like a culmination, Like, he started off as the drunk, racist, unreliable guy who was a total mess, and the other detectives had to cover for him. But deep down inside, underneath all of that, he was a really good detective. And he even was like a good person underneath all of the bullshit, if he could just get past it. And at the end of the show, at the end of that last season, that's the culmination. It's like he's conquered his demons. He's grown up. He's taken responsibility. He's become a teacher and a guide and a leader. He's moved beyond his prejudices, at least to a certain extent. And now he has ascended to the top of the squad. He's become the leader, not just, one of the cops, and certainly not just like a liability. He's become the leader. That's the end. Like, that's the end, He's climbed to the top of the mountain. Let's leave him there. Right? So no, I think they ended it at the perfect time, and I think we got exactly as much of Andy as the squad commander as we should have gotten. Here's another super chat from Mr. Downside and the Last. Thank you, sir. Play me a song, Piano Man. How's your team looking this year? I feel wobbly about my team. Have a good night, everyone, and let's go Mets. Honestly, I haven't been paying attention. I wish I could tell you more, but I haven't really been paying attention to how the O's are looking this year. Plain simple, Jake. Wait, if it wasn't the Transformers movie, what did ruin my childhood? That's for you and your psychiatrist to explore, my friend. Simon Moody says, Star Trek producers can't help but try to tie things up and put bows on them. I think it needs recognition as an official syndrome. I think the worst problem is the compulsion to go back and untie the bow and retie it. I mean, you're right. What you're describing is a problem. Like the ending of Discovery season 5 and having to, connect it to Calypso is an example of that. But there's also the problem of, let's just untie it. Let's just, because that's what happens when they keep going back. It's not enough to leave an ending as it is and say that's the ending, and it might not be perfect, and it might not have satisfied every single fucking person in the audience, and it might not have resolved every single open plot thread, but that's the ending we got to. We ended it at a good, satisfying spot. Let's just leave it there and move somewhere else and do something new. And actually, for a while, they were pretty good at that. But now that we're in this era of nostalgia and legacy and revisiting classic IP, now it's like, oh, better untie that. Better go back and do some more shit there. Can't just have an ending, you know? So I think that's a problem as well. Random Geek says, what is your reaction to the statement Star Trek has capitalism? I think I answered that already. I mean, it clearly does. It clearly does. Like, capitalism exists in the Star Trek universe. The Ferengi are capitalists. The commerce on Deep Space Nine is capitalist. Like, they exchange currency. They run businesses. Capitalism exists. It even exists in the Federation, in Star Trek, the original series. At least it's strongly implied that it does. I mean, they talk about credits and being paid. I think Kirog mentioned in the question, in Star Trek 6, Scotty says, I just bought a boat. Now, you can interpret that as like just rhetorical. You know, Scotty's not literally saying, I just bought a boat with money. He's just using that phrase to indicate, you know, I hope it doesn't take very long. I bought a boat, as in I'm planning to retire. I'm not planning to do this anymore, you know? But yeah, clearly capitalism exists in Star Trek. I think the more important point is that usually when Star Trek asks us to pay particular attention to the capitalism being done, it's for the purpose of being critical of it. I think that's the more important point. Not does capitalism exist in Star Trek or not? Clearly it does. But more whenever Star Trek says, hey, pay special attention to the capitalism going on here, it's for the message is to be critical of capitalism. The Vulcan Nerd with a super chat, thank you, my friend, says, hi, Steve. Digging up something old. When you proved Sam Harris is an asshole, most atheist YouTubers ignored the Murray part and Sam laughing. Thoughts? I honestly don't remember what you're talking about. Douglas Murray, I assume? And Harris, it's been so long since I thought about Sam Harris or Douglas Murray that I don't remember specifically what you're talking about. I'm sorry, my friend. Oh, Caitlin, no, I don't think I have watched Adam Neely's essays, but thanks for the recommendation. Bathtub Gareth, I mean, NYPD Blue was a little, yeah, there were definitely comparisons to Hill Street Blues. And I mean, obviously they're both Stephen Bochco shows, but I think stylistically NYPD Blue is a lot different. It's not just a more up-to-date Hill Street Blues. I think stylistically NYPD Blue is distinguishable from Hill Street Blues. $255 AD says, every now and again, the creator of Invincible would draw and tweet out Mark/Invincible beating up other famous people from anime and comics to troll fans who obsess over who would win. That's fantastic. 255D also says, why did the person who wrote that commercial have him talking about growing peas over a shot of them already cooled? That's a great question too. Kirog with a member message. Lieutenant Bale to Andy. You have to answer to the bosses above, look out for those below, and live with yourself. I think you did good with the last two. Good luck with the first one. Man, that hits hard. Yeah, because that's, you know, that's what Andy, that would be the biggest challenge for Andy is putting up with the authority of the people above him. Yeah. Kara says, sometimes Star Trek can be a bit heavy-handed with some things. The High Ground, for example, is terribly heavy-handed about terrorism. Yeah, and then for years it was the one episode not shown in the UK because of its associations with the IRA. Yeah, it can be pretty heavy-handed. I mean, it goes back to the original series. You know, the example that everybody thinks of is the half black, half white guys from Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. But I also have made repeated reference in my videos to A Private Little War, where there's a scene between Kirk and McCoy where they stop just short of having Kirk say, this situation we're in now is a lot like the Vietnam War, don't you think? Like, he doesn't say that, but he comes right up to the line of just fucking saying that, this is a lot like Vietnam, isn't it? So no, it has frequently been a not very subtle show. Yeah. No, bathtub Gareth. Yeah, I've talked about that in videos as well. I mean, there's a lot of anti-Semitic tropes in the Ferengi. I think I mean, you can make the joke about first of all, Jews aren't bombing their neighbors. The government of Israel is bombing their neighbors. That's not a Jew thing. It's an Israel thing. There's a distinction there that's important. But no, the Ferengi are definitely, they have a lot of Jewish stereotypes mixed in with them. There's a lot of anti-Semitism mixed in with the Ferengi. I don't think it's intentional. Like, I don't think Gene Roddenberry was like, let's really stick it to the Jews and give them big noses and make them look like demons. And I don't think that was intentional. But it's definitely there. Like, it's definitely there. There's a lot of anti-Semitic imagery in their makeup, and the fact that, like, they're obsessed with money, which is an old anti-Semitic stereotype. Like, it's there. I don't think it's intentional, but it's there. Yeah, Darth Eddie, the Brush Wars. Yeah. Bad. Yeah. It's not the Jews. It's the government of Israel that is the problem, not the Jewish people. Just scrolling through for some other questions or comments that Cyrano Johnson, we need Hans to sing Piano Man. Oh my God. And Kurak says, I would love Stuffy to sing Piano Man. It's easier to sing in Stuffy's voice than it is to sing in Hans's voice, just because of the register of Hans's voice. I have sung in Hans's voice before. I can do it, but it's really difficult. It's much easier to sing in Stuffy's voice. So yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, 255. That's what I was saying. Yeah, that is, yes. Conflating the crimes committed by the state and the military of Israel with all Jews is extremely anti-Semitic, and it is not acceptable at all. You're absolutely right, and hopefully I made that point. Yeah, Caitlin's right. Simon, I don't have a problem. I don't have like an ideological objection with long story arcs. I just want them to be done well. And I do believe, as I've said many times, I do think episodic storytelling makes more sense for a TV series, because that is just the nature of the thing. Like, I feel like, to a certain extent, form should dictate content. And if the way you're choosing to tell your story is in a series of separate episodes, then your story should be told in a way that is served by that format. So you can do long-term story arcs, but just structure it so that the long-term story is progressed by a series of individual episodes, as opposed to treating each episode like a chapter in a book where the story is incomplete. Like, the single episode should have its own complete story with a beginning, a middle, and an end, with elements that carry over to progress the larger story. That's just how I think it's best done, But I don't think there's anything wrong with long-term story arcs as a rule. Bathtub Gareth says, which part of Ireland is Stuffy from? Stuffy is not from Ireland. Jack is from Ireland. Jack is from Northern Ireland. Jack is from Belfast, although he has not been there for many years. So if you notice any oddities in his accent, where Jack does not sound like you would expect a person from Northern Ireland to sound, well, that's because Jack has lived in the United States for many years and his accent has drifted a bit. So that's the explanation for that. So I don't need anybody to come at me like I'm Robert Kirkman and try to explain why Jack's accent sounds the way it does. I just explained it. Yeah, see, yeah, Babylon 5. Babylon 5 was great at it. That's exactly how Babylon 5 did it. And the latter seasons of Deep Space Nine as well. I mean, I've even done this myself, where in my imagination, I remember them as being a lot more tightly serialized than they were. Like, until I went back and rewatched Babylon 5, as you know, as I did about 4 or 5 years ago, which was the first time I had gone back and watched the whole thing since it was originally on. I remembered it as being a lot more like tightly serialized than it is. And actually, if you watch it, yes, every season has a long-term story arc, and the series itself has an even longer-term story arc that is carried on throughout the whole thing. But almost every episode is a standalone episode, you know, or part of like an explicit, you know, two-parter, right? It's not just, you know, the episodes are just chapters in a book and you don't get the full story until you watch the whole thing. Like, it's not structured that way. It's structured like a fucking TV series, but it just has longer story arcs that tie the multiple episodes together. Yeah, and again, like that, I feel like that's just the way it should be done. That makes sense to me. That just makes sense. If you're going to do a TV series, unless you're doing an anthology, I mean, if it's like the Twilight Zone and every episode literally is a separate story that has nothing to do with the other episodes, that's great. But if you're telling a series where it's going to be, you know, an ongoing story with regular characters, that's the only way that makes sense to me. Standalone episodes that also have plot threads and character arcs that carry forward, that, you know, kind of tie it together and that pay off somewhere down the road. But each individual episode still has its own beginning, middle, and end type of story. Like, why is that not the way it's always done? Just, yeah. Doing it any other way doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, Simon just said the exact same thing. While I was blathering, Simon said the exact same thing. We remember them as being tighter than they are, but actually they're episodic, but they serve the larger story. Caitlin, you always assumed Belfast or Derry. Yeah. Yep. Jack is from Belfast. Jack's origin, I've never explored Jack's origin story in any detail, and I probably never will. But the most we've ever gotten about his background before we just started seeing him in the show is, I think at one point in one of the episodes of the old Stephen Stuffy show, he mentions that the way he got to America was he passed out in Belfast and he woke up in Kansas City. And that's how he got to America. And he doesn't know anything other than that. He knows that he passed out in Belfast and he woke up in Kansas City, and that's it. So, yeah. Darth Eddie says, what is your favorite episode of the 1980s remake of The Twilight Zone? What's the one? Is that the one with Danny Kaye? It's called Paladin of the Last Hour. I think, and did Harlan Ellison write that one? I think it definitely sounds like a Harlan Ellison title. I think that might be my favorite. The remake of Game of Pool is not bad, with Esai Morales. I mean, I don't think it holds a candle to the original, but it's not bad. I think it was early 2000s, Caitlin. The one where Forrest Whitaker is the host. That's early 2000s. Yeah. Yeah, CMAC, not just the pugnacious Irishman from Northern Ireland, the pugnacious Irishman with a penchant for setting shit on fire is from Northern Ireland. So may give me credit for making him as stereotypical as I possibly could. Bathtub Gareth says, Steve, as per From What We Left Behind, would you like a one series only continuation of what they wrote for season 8? No, absolutely not. I think that was a neat little exercise, I think getting getting a bunch of the original writers back and having them pitch another season, like I think that was kind of just a cool thing for them to do for the doc. But like, would I want them to go back and make? No, no, absolutely not, absolutely not. Um, 255 AD says, "Oh, my chat viewer died. Let me reset it." And then I will take that as an omen that it's time to start wrapping up the show. So let me answer a couple more questions that I caught in the live chat, and then I will do my my end of stream wrap up, and then come back for maybe a few very, very final questions, and then that'll be the end of the stream. But somebody, what was one that I saw here? 255 AD said, in the Voyager episode Living Witness, is it problematic to imply the ancestors of an opposed race kind of brought it on themselves by being warlike? No, not really. I don't think that's problematic. I mean, history is messy, history is complicated, you know. I think, like, as long as you don't, and I don't think this episode does, as long as you don't leave the impression that, like, in some way, like, that they had it coming, like the oppressed people, the people who are oppressed in the present had it coming because they were violent in the past. Like, and I don't think that episode sends that message. So I mean, in general, I don't think that's necessarily problematic. I agree, Steven. Yes, DS9 is over. It's my favorite Star Trek show. It's one of my favorite shows, period. It's over. It's been over for almost 27 years at this point. Let it be. Let it be what it is. It's finished. Let's enjoy it as a finished work. Damian Williams with a super chat says, have you watched Pat Finnerty on YouTube? I think you'd like his sense of humor. I don't think I have. And then Caitlin says, have you seen Mad Men? You know what? That's another kind of situation. And somebody else asked about Stargate. Similar situation. I watched the first episode of Mad Men, and I thought it was great. Like, I really liked it. And then I just never went back to it. So I'll probably get around to it eventually. Like, I really liked it. And I'm sure I will enjoy it if I ever actually get around to watching it. But I've never watched beyond the first episode, even though I really liked it. So it's one of those things where I thought, oh, I like this. And I never returned to it. And that's the same story with SG-1. I watched the first episode of Stargate and thought, I could get into this. This seems cool. And then I just never went back to it. I will at some point. Okay. So if anybody has any final questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat, and I will get back to them for a final survey of questions after I do my end of stream wrap up. And first of all, if you enjoy this YouTube thing that I do and you can afford it and you would like to support me in continuing to do it, first of all, thank you so much if you're already doing that. I appreciate it. I couldn't do this without you. And if you're thinking about becoming a supporter of the channel, you can do that by going to patreon.com/Steve Shives and becoming a patron, or by clicking the join button right here on YouTube and becoming a channel member. And either way, whether you become a patron or a member, one of the benefits that you unlock for yourself, one of the options you have, is to submit questions ahead of time for these Ask Away live streams. The Monday before an Ask Away, I will always put up a post in the a members only YouTube community post and a paid members Patreon post with a link to the Google form where you can submit your questions. And those are the questions that I answer in the first part of these Ask Away shows. So it's just a little thing that I do to show some appreciation to my paid supporters, because again, I appreciate you so much, and I could not do this without you. So patreon.com/Steve Shives, or click the join button to become a channel member. Also, don't forget, if you enjoy the YouTube thing that I do, you might also enjoy the podcast thing that I am a part of. I am a regular on 2 podcasts, which are both part of the Lemmy Listen family of podcasts. There's Late Seating, the movie review podcast, where Jason and I take a look at usually classic films. I don't think our most recent subject qualifies as that, but films that have left some cultural imprint, and decide whether they deserve their reputation, be it good or bad. Our most recent episode that we have recorded is our review of the movie Sucker Punch. You can probably guess what Jason and I both thought of Sucker Punch, but I think you should listen to the episode anyway, because I think it's a good episode. And I'm also on the Ensign's Log, which is the Star Trek themed improv comedy podcast that Jason and I do along with our friend Amanda Billings. And we play original characters on the show that we have created ourselves, who exist in the Star Trek universe, in the world of, at this point, in the world of Deep Space Nine. And, you know, stuff from the actual Deep Space Nine show is kind of happening in the background, but our show is mostly about our stuff and what we are doing and what our characters are getting up to. And it's a ton of fun to record. And hopefully, if you listen to it or are thinking about listening to it, it's a ton of fun to listen to. And if you enjoy my Star Trek related stuff, and you especially enjoy funny Star Trek stuff that makes fun of Star Trek, I think you'll enjoy the Ensign's Log. So give it a listen, and late seating as well. And also, do not forget, please, charitylinks.page, which is kept up by our friend Some Random Geek and includes PayPals and Ko-Fis and GoFundMes and various other funding links for some friends of ours who need a helping hand, who need a little bit of extra help to keep the bills paid or put food on the table. If you have a few dollars left over at the end of the month and you would like to put it to a very good cause and help out someone who needs a helping hand, please make use of the resources available for you in charitylinks.page, because there's always, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who need a little bit of a hand up, and if you can provide that, they would appreciate it. I would appreciate it very much too. So, and also don't forget, I remembered, I mentioned it at the beginning, I'll mention it here at the end. No Ask Away 2 weeks from now. Typically, I do these every 2 weeks, but in 2 weeks from today, I will be getting some wisdom teeth extracted. That'll be in the afternoon, and I have decided to take it easy on myself and not try to do a live stream a few hours after getting wisdom teeth extracted. I don't think the procedure is going to be that big of a deal. I had my consultation meeting appointment with my oral surgeon today, and no, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal, but it's probably not going to feel great. So I'm just going to take the rest of that day off. So no Ask Away in 2 weeks. The next Ask Away, instead of on April 24th, when it would usually have been, will be on May 8th. So, and like I said, I've scheduled posts to go up closer to the time to remind everybody that there's not going to be an Ask Away, on what would have been the next time. And we'll gather back together for another one of these on in about a month. So yeah, that's all I really have to tell you. Let me take a last look over here at the live chat and see what we've got going on. 255 AD says, you don't think we're getting a DS9 season 8? I'm still holding out hope. Well, don't hold your breath. Any new Best Batman Ever coming up? Nowhere Man Child says, yes, actually, I'm shooting one tomorrow. There will be a new one coming out on Wednesday. Yes, absolutely. There's a new Best Batman Ever coming out on Wednesday. It's about Gothic, the second storyline of Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, and one of my favorite Batman stories ever. I can just call you Gareth, Bathtub Gareth. Well, then that's what I will do until I forget and call you Bathtub Gareth again. Zach Jones Magnaphonic says, hey, Steve, why not Zoidberg? That's what I've been saying. That's what I've been saying. Don Quixote says, do you think part of the problem with Starfleet Academy was that it wasn't on regular television and you had to pay to see it? Well, but that's not a problem with just that show. That's a problem with the entire, with everything from Discovery forward. I mean, I don't think you can single out Starfleet Academy as saying that was the problem when, they've all been produced primarily for streaming. And also, I don't think it's, there have been streaming shows that have been incredibly successful. Like, it's not like there's never been a hit streaming show. So I feel like that's too simple of an explanation. John Stewart says, is supporting third-party candidates a waste of time and we have to settle the least harmful of bad choices? Yeah, probably. I would say other than unless it's like some extraordinary circumstance in your district or your hometown where there is like a progressive third-party candidate who actually has a chance of getting elected. Other than something like that, yeah, I think it's a waste of time. Oh, CMAC, you had your wisdom teeth pulled a couple months ago too. Oh, great. Oh, I can't wait. I love adventure. Well, Wolfram and Hart, usually they are taken in late teens, but mine took a while to come in. I'm going to be, my next birthday in about a month, I'm going to be 46, and mine have never been an issue or been a problem until recently. And actually, the reason why I went to see about it in the first place was this upper right one here is broken. And I don't have any pain from it. It hasn't been it hasn't been giving me misery, but it is an issue. Like, it's a broken tooth and it needs to be resolved. So I went in to get that looked at, and they said, yeah, we're going to take this one out, but also this one down here is, so I'm going to get a few of them taken out. Mr. Crinan says, any hope for a DS9 movie? No, I hope for not a Deep Space Nine movie. I want them to leave Deep Space Nine alone. I don't want I positively hope they don't do a Deep Space Nine movie. I hope it's just new stuff. I don't want them to revisit anything. I want them to do new stuff. If they're going to keep making Star Trek, like I've said before, do what they did with The Next Generation. Make something new. Like, it's still Star Trek. It's under that umbrella. It's in that fictional world. But it's new characters. It's a new ship. Nobody's anybody's fucking brother or cousin or son or daughter, right? It's new characters we haven't met before in a new location, having new adventures where they go to new planets and meet new people. That's what I want. So no, I positively hope they never make a Deep Space Nine movie. I wish they had not revisited Deep Space Nine in the ways they have already. Like, I don't ever want to see Deep Space Nine again, because it's my favorite show in the franchise. Just leave it be. It's fine. Just leave it be. Now 255 AD is getting close. What if they produced a season 8 of Deep Space Nine set immediately after the finale, but just didn't acknowledge all the actors being 30 years older? I mean, just I might be down for that, just because I know it would make certain fans' heads explode. I mean, why aren't they talking about how much older everybody is? This doesn't make sense. Shut up. I would be down for that just for the annoy the nerds factor. But I would still prefer they just don't do it. Time to move on and give us Deep Space 10, says Plain and Simple J. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Time for Deep Space 10. Okay, that's it, everybody. I'm going to call the festivities to a close. Thank you all once again for joining me, for being here. I appreciate you so much. I will see you not in 2 weeks, but in 4 weeks. And I'll see you a bunch of times in between that with the regular videos, but won't be another one of these Askaways until May the 8th. So thank you all so much for being here. I will see you then, and a bunch of times in between. And have a good night. Have a good weekend, and take care, everybody.